In a world where Carolina Panthers fans have an insatiable thirst for Panthers news and opinions, only one podcast roars ferociously. It's the C3 Panthers Podcast.
Perfect. What's the deal, Panther fans? It's your boy, Tony Dunn, a.k.a. The Professor. It's the C3 Panthers Podcast, brought to you by CarolinaCatChronicles.com every Tuesday night, live, 9 p.m., chopping up the latest Panthers news and opinions. That's right. It's the longest-running Panthers podcast, and you can be a part of it. The number is 252-228-5098. We've got a great show in store for you tonight. Tonight's show is Sam Darnold trash or treasure? And at 9:45, I think, as long as we didn't get our standard times switched up, Tim Jenkins, former NFL quarterback, and PJ Walker's former coach, going to join the show and help us figure out what we have in Sam Darnold. And you can get your questions in for him about PJ Walker. So tell us in the chat what you want to know from Tim Jenkins about Sam Darnold, PJ Walker going forward. Tell us what you want to talk about tonight in the chat room. Go ahead and smash the thumbs up button. Like I said, be a part of the show. And welcome my co-host, the producer of the show as well, Cody Lashney, to the C3 Panthers Podcast.
Tony Dunn, what's up, brother? It's another Tuesday night. There's nowhere I'd rather be than sitting here with my boys talking about some Panthers football, man. We've done some good things. The Panthers have really set themselves up to go BPA. We have this really exciting draft to look forward to. I've been covering some prospects right here on the channel that people seem to be enjoying. Make sure you check those out. And Tony Dunn, you know that tonight we are joined by the most lit Panther fans in all of YouTube, and you already know the same usual suspects: Tar Heel Iyer, Matt Knows Nothing, Tim Tizzy, who by his words is stuck on the side of a road listening to us right now. Hope that clears up for you, Tim. AJ 1216, Rockhead, Jason Lewis, Chad Morales, Tony Dunn, and not tour but to do it, brother. Let's roll.
Somebody send Tim Tizzy a copy of a picture of their AAA card and get him some help. All right. We got CK in the house. My man, how's your dream today?
Oh, it's just amazing, bro. I just having such a good dream. No, it's man, it's a typical off season, right? It's nice to have beautiful weather outside, not be too hot, not be too cold. But man, when it comes to football, you are just praying that something comes across the wire that gets you excited about this team. And, you know, there's a few things that we can talk about tonight that I think we can say our team is getting better. But, you know, I'm more excited to talk to, you know, our guest tonight about what he thinks about Sam Darnold moving forward and if he has the capability of being what we hope he will be.
Tim Jenkins has a YouTube channel called All Things QB, hosted by Tim Jenkins, and he's done. My boy Scott Mason from Play Like a Jet podcast put me in touch with Tim, and when he said, "I got a guy for you that knows a lot about Darnold, you should check him out," I said, "Sure, send him over." And then I was like, "I watch this guy on YouTube all the time." I've seen he's done a lot of study on Trey Lance, Justin Fields. He's done all the quarterbacks. Really good at teaching concepts. It's good filmer, like things that I don't understand a lot, like the names of the plays and like some of the things that the names of the coverages and how some coverages look like others, but they're this. So he's really great. We'll have a lot to ask him about Sam Darnold later. We got some audio from Sam Darnold's press conference as well. And don't forget your cat calls, 252-228-5098. Let's go ahead and start the show off with kind of something that happened again. I think we're starting to see a trend towards news dumps after the show. I don't like this. Towards a Wednesday, Thursday. We, for the last couple of years, have had a good run of Tuesday news dumps. And that's been
a lot of them. It was like a real upstreak of Tuesday news drops for a while.
Yes. And, early in the podcast, I felt like it was Wednesday, Thursday. Sometimes they drop it on the weekend, too, trying to hide it. The internet now has changed things. You can't hide stories over the weekend anymore. But I think this happened maybe on Wednesday or Thursday of last week. AJ Bouye, former All-Pro corner, spent time with, I believe, the Houston Texans. There was one other. I know he's coming from Denver, but I think he started with the Jags, went to the Texans, and then last year was with the Denver Broncos. This AJ, I think he only played 6 games last year, both because of maybe some because of injury, but more importantly, got popped for PEDs and served a 6-game suspension in there. The Scott Fitterer adds to this secondary, guys. Your thoughts on AJ Bouye and what this means kind of about the Panthers offseason to this point?
I really do feel like this has truly set us up to go best player available. And I know we've said that on the podcast before, but I mean, really, and I think you even said this before our show tonight, Tony, that really, even if we didn't have the draft, this roster technically is ready to go. Now, granted, obviously, it could still use the upgrades that the draft will bring us, but right now, this team signed a bunch of linebackers. We signed 2 of them, really high-level ones, in our opinion. Then we have AJ Bouye on the team now for 2 years. And I think for the most part, this has been a highly favored signing. It was a 2-year deal worth $7 million. And listen, knowing that we signed Eli Apple last year, and he basically didn't do anything for us, Dante Jackson is up and down, hot and cold. Lacks a lot of discipline, deep in coverage. I mean, that was kind of disciplined displayed on all or nothing for the Carolina Panthers. So I really do like this move for our defensive backfield. You add an older presence, someone that's been around, someone who's been a part of some high-level defenses. And I really like what he has the potential to do for us. It doesn't preclude us from taking a cornerback anywhere in the draft. In fact, I'm almost certain that we're still going to. It could be in the first or the second round, too. So right now we have put ourselves in a position to just take the best player available and bolster the football team. And I really do think any position could still be in contention for the Panthers at pick 8, including the quarterbacks.
What does Bouye do for this team, CK?
I mean, it takes a little bit more of a question mark off the table. As he mentioned, I mean, I think best player available is a great concept, but I really think that this allows them to get the guy that they want without fear of not having a good enough starting cornerback. That's such a valuable location, like a valuable position that we just haven't felt really good at. And I think part of it is we always let the good developed players that we've gotten in the building as a cornerback walk out the door. Josh Norman, James Bradbury. It's just unfortunate that we have yet to have that staple at that position that we've seen maintain a level of value for our organization. So I'm hoping that this will kind of, at least for this year, give us some depth and some, like I said, less question marks. The only thing that I wonder, and I kind of afraid to feel this way, was last year. I think we felt the moves they made last year told us they were in a win now moment. Like it was not a rebuild. It was, we were going to be winning. Like they made some moves that felt good. They weren't great, but they felt like it was not, like they didn't have intentions of this thing, dragging on beyond this year. We were going to be a contender. Obviously that didn't work out. And the year before that, when it was Ron Rivera, it felt the same way. It felt like we had Cam Newton. They were signing guys like Gerald McCoy and Bruce Irving, and they were getting guys in that were supposed to be difference makers. And it feels like they're doing the same thing this year, except for I just don't know if it's all going to translate. I'm worried that I've got my hopes up the way that I did for that 2019 season when things just went really downhill.
The AJ Bouye signing, to me, kind of was the cherry on top to the plan that Scott Fitterer has enacted. Now, I'm not going to get too excited about Bouye just yet, right? I've learned my lesson about getting excited about corners who have been out cast-offs by other teams.
Yeah.
Right. There was a year that this was probably 2013. We signed a corner from the Chargers, and we signed, what was this guy? He played safety, and he was a Falcons safety, and he came over here. And I tell you this, no, this was before Roman Harper, and these two guys stunk. And the one had been a Pro Bowler before. God, what was it? It was 2014 or 2013. It might have been. No, it might even been as early as 2012. This guy went on the radio all the time and just took his lumps. But I was so excited about adding these guys, and we got a secondary put together, and it's going to help. And so I'm going to wait until I see it. But what I was excited about with what I think the AJ Bouye signing kind of showed me is what Scott Fitterer's plan kind of was.
Yeah.
And there was, and I'm trying to think if it's a 3-part plan or a 4-part plan. The goal of this plan is to fill out a roster that could play today. Maybe not win might not be the best roster in the history of the world today, but that you have it so that you have filled out the position group, right? If you think about this, the first phase was to secure Taylor Moton and begin kind of addressing the most important part or the biggest need, one of the bigger needs in the offensive line. And then the second phase, kind of those in-house guys. You saw some contract renegotiations when it comes to Shaq Thompson, Christian McCaffrey. So this in-house phase was to free up some money for the cap, but also to make sure that you use that franchise tag for Moton. Second phase was really to aggressively go after the most important needs on the squad, or maybe some of the bigger deficiencies. They signed Pat Elflein. They signed Cam Irvin, going to try to fill out the starters. We need to get 5 people that we could put in jerseys on that offensive line. So Taylor Moton, Cam Irving, and maybe the guys that you already had on the team, Elflein, who can play guard, can play center. They also then went after another big need linebacker, Denzel Perryman. Maybe not the greatest addition, the most versatile linebacker, nothing giant, but a need, right? Is that we saw that last year, there's kind of the struggle at the linebacker position. I still really have a lot of hope for when it comes to Jermaine Carter Jr. I'm not going to lie about that. And I almost forgot. I didn't even write this down. Then we get our blue chip player in Hassan Reddick. I don't even know. Maybe that was just our icing on the cake pick, or like that was a great pick. Maybe not even the biggest need at the moment. But really, again, now you have 2 starting edge rushers, Brian Burns and him, filling it out where you have the players there. And then the end of phase 2 was the addition of a tight end, the Dan Arnold, the guy. And then the third phase was is that there were still 2 outstanding needs. We knew that the quarterback position, that things had soured between the Carolina Panthers and Bridgewater. And we know that the secondary is still kind of up in the air when it comes to how good Dante Jackson is, if he's going to be a starter this year. Can Troy Pride Jr. take the next step? And so the Carolina Panthers saw that it was going to be difficult maybe to secure their guy at quarterback in the draft, too expensive to move up. And so they made a trade for Sam Darnold, which fills that quarterback need. You have a guy that you are willing to start from day one, whether he's good or bad, we don't know, but we have a team, and AJ Bouye is the final step of this. So to me, I think that Scott Fitterer's plan has been to build a team that could play today, and then the draft is something that can just be, added support to that unit and not backed into a corner to where you are sitting at 8 and you got to draft a quarterback no matter what, or you don't have an offensive line and you have to draft a tackle no matter who's available, or you've got to go get a corner. We've addressed these needs to so much so that BPA can be used at every turn throughout this draft.
I mean, you really hit the nail on the head. I mean, we needed a tackle. Fitterer brought in Cam Irving. We needed a guard, brought in Pat Elflein. We needed a tight end, brought in Dan Arnold. We needed a cornerback, brought in AJ Bouye. We need a linebacker. We got 2 of them. We got Perryman and Hassan Reddick. And you know what? We all shit on Teddy Bridgewater so much. The front office heard us. And they said, you know what? We need a quarterback too. And they went and got one. I mean, Scott Fitterer has been an absolute dream. I hope that man is doing what CK says and is living his dream, because right now he is doing a tremendous job. Listen, I mean, just thinking about our defensive line, the thought of Derek Brown in the middle, Jatura Gross-Matos, Brian Burns, Hassan Reddick. Now you add the second year of Jeremy Chin, AJ Bouye. I mean, really, this defense has an opportunity to take the next step forward next year and really be a fast-paced, get after the quarterback, hard thumping defense. And I'm really excited about what this defense has the potential to be next year. I think they'll be fast, physical, and violent. And I mean, there isn't any, but I don't know about either of you, but to me, as of right now, I cannot tell you what position we would be favoring over any other in the draft. Like, I really couldn't tell you. I mean, I think it's just as
you don't have to favor one at all now. You don't have to favor one at all. And Travis brought this up as we even added a wide receiver and more and signed that one kid from BYU that runs a 4.3. So we added some bodies to the wide receiver room in the absence of Curtis Samuel.
Right. But we've done some really wonderful moves. I'm happy the direction that the team is moving towards. I'm just really, me personally, I'm trying to get the temperature from Panthers fans on what we're going to do or what they would do if the Panthers did indeed draft a quarterback, if one is still on the board at 8. Because I feel like as Panther fans, we've just assumed that it's going to be Sam Darnold. And I'll even admit, if I'm a betting man, I say no matter what, no matter who we draft, Sam Darnold is going to be the starter for the Panthers next year. But I think we've kind of
or at least at the beginning.
Yeah, for sure. But I think we've written off the idea that the Panthers are even in the market for a quarterback at all. We know that the Panthers are going to be at the second pro days of both Justin Fields and Trey Lance, because both of them are indeed doing a second pro day. And Fitterer and Matt Rule, and I believe Joe Brady will be at both of them. So the Panthers are not done doing their due diligence on the quarterback position. And really everything is on the table for the Panthers right now. It's exciting stuff, man.
CK, what do you think about that? Panthers at 8 with all the steps and the holes that they filled, the sand they poured in between the gaps. They pick Trey Lance at 8, Justin Fields at 8. How do you feel about that?
I mean, I don't hate the idea. I just think it's, again, if you didn't have the confidence in them, I mean, number one, if you didn't have the confidence in them I mean, it's such a tough one because you're giving away 3 picks for Sam Darnold already, guaranteed. You've given away 3. Now, regardless of what you think, it is a second rounder, which still is pretty impactful to an organization trying to build a squad, even though that's next year's draft. If we were to do have an 8th pick, and I'd be upset. Here's the thing. Here's where I would be upset. If there were a Pitts or a Sewell or anybody else on that's like generational at their skill position, then I think I would be absolutely upset because you have more question marks on the quarterback and more quarterbacks don't work out in the first round than pretty much any other position that you can find out there. So I don't like the idea of drafting a QB in the first round, but I understand the reason why they would. I just don't think that it's a good idea.
So I understand that people would be surprised given that we gave up some assets to get Sam Darnold. I felt like the Sam Darnold, and Cody has made this analogy. I think it's a beautiful one, or metaphor, maybe. I don't know. It's an analogy. It's like the break glass in case of emergency moment.
Yeah.
And we were in emergency once the Deshaun Watson stuff emerged. It became at that point, it became imperative that the Panthers find an answer that wasn't Deshaun Watson and wasn't trading up once the 49ers did, and they had to break glass and find something that they could trot out there. The picks, when you hear the second and the fourth, it does sound expensive, right? But what is the worst that could happen if you pick a quarterback at 8, or say you pick a tackle at 8? So that you have two options. You can pick a tackle or you pick Trey Lance. And we pick the tackle, and then you go, wait a second, Sam Darnold is not guaranteed to work. He's not. Is that while we have the rose-colored glasses on right now, hoping and praying that a new situation with good teaching coaches and good weapons and can, kind of wash the stink off of him and his career can be resurrected. That is a gamble in itself, right? So if it doesn't work out, then you're back to square one.
Yeah.
You get a quarterback in the draft, though, and it doesn't work out, and the timeline just gets moved up.
Yeah.
Darnold stinks, and all of a sudden now it's not about sitting this kid for 10 games or a year or something like that. It's about, hey, go get in there.
Yeah, and
here's the one other thing, though, and I'm passing the mic to you, is what happens, though, if you draft a quarterback and Sam Darnold does work out? All of a sudden now you have an opportunity to either potentially, which I would think would be stupid, you could trade the pick away, that you could trade Lance on the idea that he looked good in the preseason and everybody's going off of his draft grade. Or you could trade Sam Darnold on his 5th-year option and at the very minimum get back what you gave up for him.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where I am on that. And then the last, I guess, and then I said I would give the mic up, but the last point is that quarterbacks change the game more than wide receivers do, right? Is that I saw a great tweet from one of the, who was it, from WFNZ? And he was like, so you're trying to tell me that you guys are worried about a quarterback working out at 8, so you just are going to take Pitts instead? Well, I mean, like that's like acting like he's going to be there's no risk there either. So I do think I'm with you, Cody, I think the Panthers should be in the game at 8 if the chips fall that way. But I think they're right on the money in saying they're not going to fall that way. There's a good chance that by 4, there's 4 straight picks of quarterbacks.
Like if they didn't do this, like here's the thing: if they didn't trade for Sam Darnold and no quarterbacks drop to us, then we're left with nothing, right? Mm-hmm. So they made the decision to get Sam Darnold while they could, and then obviously now if that does happen to where a quarterback does fall to you, then I think you've almost won that as they said, he said you can never have too many quarterbacks, too many good quarterbacks, which I think that's a complete BS answer. I think you can absolutely have too many good quarterbacks because all of that does is create contention among the organization. But that's why you're not going to have a great. That's why Teddy Bridgewater was seeking trades elsewhere. That's why if we were to draft another QB, I think it would be very much just kind of spitting in Sam Darnold's face. Which I mean, like I said, it's business. I think he's going to be able to understand it, but I don't. Like I said, I think that at this point in time, drafting a quarterback, and I agree. Like from a Kyle Pitts perspective, like they're not going to change the game as much as a quarterback. But I tell you, one position that would be at least as close as it can be would be a left tackle. And that can be something that can completely change the way your offense runs. If you've got a left tackle that can change the way that your quarterback runs an offense. So that's where I would be a problem. I would have a problem if there were a top left tackle in the draft.
So I agree with you, but I would put it to you like this, right? We just signed AJ Bouye to be a corner for 2 years for the Panthers, right? It's just for 2 years. But do any of us think that stops us from taking a shutdown corner at the 8th pick? Right. So similarly, I can say that we know for a fact we have Sam Darnold on a 2-year lease. And that also shouldn't preclude us from taking a quarterback with the 8th overall pick. And I do think Adam Sanders in the chat made a really good point. Tepper wants a franchise quarterback so bad. If Trey Lance or Justin Fields is on the board, the fact that he wouldn't have to immediately start that player, I think would be too good for them to pass up, even with Sam Darnold and all the promises and stuff that have supposedly been made to him. I also think that Travis made a great point too. If we draft a quarterback this year, we don't know that the quarterback class next year is even going to be worth a damn. And in fact, all the reports right now said that the quarterback class isn't quite as filled with talent as it is this year. So, we have the potential to move on from Sam or stick with him if we want him, or if some other team is willing to trade for whatever quarterback we drafted, then it just means that we have more assets to be able to move and do things in the future. I really do think that the Panthers are open to do just about anything right now.
Blake says, I thought Darnold was on a 1-year deal, not a 2. Is that we went ahead and picked up his 5th-year option. So
not
we
yet.
have.
But we didn't, though.
We did not.
Oh, we didn't.
And Jonathan,
Wasn't that reported?
No,
it was reported that we were going to.
But then we haven't, and apparently we're waiting until after the draft to do so. Or that's how Jonathan. That's how
you have
Jonathan
to do it
Jones
urgently. Do we have to do it?
I don't think so. But if we just signed, why would we be waiting until after the draft to sign his 5th-year option? That kind of says to me, well, if we end up taking a quarterback, we might not need to sign that 5th-year option.
Here's the thing.
Or why would you even need to do it, period? Haven't we learned our lesson in that, is that these guys are on a prove-it deal, not we owe you deal? And I don't know how the options work. Right?
Chat room is saying we have until May 1st to pick up the 5th-year option.
Yeah.
So that's the last possible moment, and then you can't get out of it once you do, I take it.
Yeah, correct. If you pick up the 5th-year option, that is guaranteed money, and that's obviously a pay raise for him as well. It's great for Sam Darnold. If he just is a bum this entire year, it's not so great for the Panthers, because then we have another situation where we're going to have a tremendous amount of dead cap if we try to cut him.
It's not a tremendous amount, though. Interestingly, about this,
like 17 million.
It's 17 total.
No, for that 5th year, yeah,
24 total or something like that. Yeah, is that this year we're getting them on like a 9 or 12 or so. But you're right. Is that is again, think about all the dead money and dead weight at the quarterback position. If this doesn't work, what if we drafted a quarterback and then immediately after the draft on this roster were 5 quarterbacks? Now, obviously, there wouldn't be 5 quarterbacks in late August, but think of this: is that you would have Darnold, Bridgewater, if you can't trade them, Will Grier, PJ Walker, and the person drafted. That would be an interesting. There's a big room where the room is like it's bigger than your cornerback room.
There's no way we would let PJ Walker stay.
He'd be out.
We would probably cut Will Grier and PJ Walker.
Yeah, well, no, I would think we're going to cut Will Grier before we cut. Well, anyway, you're right.
We're trying to trade Teddy Bridgewater.
I know we are. The one thing I wanted to say about like you said, the letting them wait, whoever that was drafted, it's actually an ideal situation. And that's why people who keep saying that Atlanta's not going to take a quarterback, I don't completely buy this. Yes, if someone wants to trade up and give them a lot, they don't have to. But what they could do is draft a quarterback and not need him to win today. And there's, almost like a Justin Herbert type scenario where you think he's going to sit for a year or two or trade. You're going to trade Ryan maybe next year to a team who is win now moment, hopefully, or something to that effect. The Panthers, it would give us some latitude in not having to do basically what the Jets did to Sam Darnold.
Yeah. I really do think, the Panthers don't intend for a quarterback to be there. I think that's why we did this whole Sam Darnold thing in the first place.
I agree.
And listen, if you saw my film room on this channel, listen, Sam Darnold has a ton of potential as a quarterback that has been untapped and unrealized. And a lot of people in the media are making the same bet that we are, that Sam Darnold, with the proper tutelage, with the proper coaching, with Matt Rule and Joe Brady, that he's going to be able to take that next step. And I'm inclined to believe him. But CK, listen, man, it's that time again. I need you to remind these people what time it is specifically.
You guys have not hit that like button, and if you have not, you deserve this. Subscriber shame.
For shame. Hit the like button, people. We have 95 people watching, 39 likes. Hit the like button. That helps our content to be spread around and shared with as many people in the Panther fandom as possible. Hit the like button. Hit the notification bell for when we go live. Yeah, man, we love doing this. Show some love to the boys.
All right, let's go into this. Is Sam Darnold held his first press conference when it came, or his first. But actually, before that, you said this is all the promises that they made to him. I don't think we've made any promises to him, Cody. Is that Matt Rule didn't even talk to him until he had his press conference. And I feel like that he didn't even know where he was being traded with till he was traded. So, he's just kind of got to go with the flow. And that's all he did in his interview. He was asked, though, I'm critical. What do you think about the press conference? How about that before we go?
I thought about you specifically. I really did. I thought about you, Tony, because I kind of picked up on the fact that the media was almost kind of relentless and how do you feel? Do you feel the Jets shouldn't have passed on you? What would you say to Zach or whoever the Jets draft? And it's like they kept on, what do you need to improve on? What do you need to get better at?
A lot of those were coming from the Jets media as well.
Yeah, and there was definitely a lot of Jets people in there too. And I also, we were bringing up promises. Tony, I don't know if you heard this or not, but apparently Joe Douglas, the new general manager for the Jets, all but promised Sam Darnold's mom that he was going to draft him protection and build around Sam and really build the football team around him just to ship him off to Carolina.
He literally did promise it. He literally promised Sam's mom, I'm going to protect your son and I'm going to get him some weapons.
Well, they did get the top fleet tackle last year in the draft, so it was one step towards that.
Yeah,
he couldn't protect him from Adam Gase, though. So I watched the press conference. You sent me the message and said they were hard hitters. You didn't say hard hitters, but you said, they didn't take it easy. I still thought they were very polite in it. It was he's so vanilla, dude, when it comes to he gives the perfect answer. If you just sat down and it's just he does say a lot of ums and ahs and this and that, but he is just like, oh, I want to make the best of my opportunity. He didn't say anything bad about the Jets. He didn't say anything bad. He didn't say, like, he just was the choir boy of press conferences.
He's a boy.
Yeah, there you go. The interestingly, though, for all the shit he takes from Panther fans, David Newton is the one who asks some of the more direct, blunt questions that are kind of on fans' mind. Here is David Newton with his kind of the first toughie or tougher question for Sam Darnold.
Thank you.
They're more over the course of history. There are more failures than successes for highly drafted quarterbacks on their second stop. What makes you in your situation you think different?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just coming in with an open mind and, just seeking for, a great opportunity to, lead this football team and just move the ball up and down the field and score touchdowns. That's what I'm most excited about. And I think I have a really good opportunity here to do that.
You know what I love about that question?
What's that?
Is it's going to allow Sam Darnold to hate David Newton immediately.
Right? And that'll instantly make him one of us.
No. That was one of the better. All right. They did ask Darnold how it felt to be traded. Here's Sam Darnold on being, and he was asked a couple of different ways about this. There was a couple of sound bites I could have pulled. It was interesting. I felt like he was honest here. Like I thought this was cool. I did like how he discussed the feelings that he had in the process.
But I'm curious, when you found out or heard that you might be getting traded during the off season, was there maybe a sense of relief that, you know what, let's just start pickups, go somewhere else instead of having a third coach in 4 years just in New York alone? Was there disappointment or was there actual relief?
No, I think for me, it's anytime, you go somewhere and you set, like I said before, you set lofty goals and those goals aren't met. That's always tough for me. When I heard the news that they wanted to trade me, it was tough. Anytime you're not wanted somewhere, that's always, a tough pill to swallow. But then it was the opposite feeling. You go from being unwanted and then all of a sudden, the people in Carolina, wanted me and obviously traded for me, and you go from being unwanted to wanted. And, I think that was just, when the trade went down, obviously, like I said, things didn't work out the way that I wanted in New York, but I was just so excited for a fresh start and new opportunity. So it was bittersweet. But meeting the people, like I keep saying, meeting the people around here and getting to know everyone and, what the agenda is around here. It's, I'm just very thrilled and excited to get.
So, he's speaking on that. That is interesting. You kind of forget sometimes the emotions that are with these players and the pressure that's on these guys. And there was a lot of pressure on Sam Darnold. Some people probably would be critical of maybe a little how nonchalant he was about that pressure.
The chat room is already roasting him for the and the you know.
You know what's crazy is he's a football player and like he is not he's the leader of the pack, but every one of us would be in front of there and answering those questions and doing the exact same damn thing.
It's almost like his job is a football player and not a public speaker.
Right. Yeah, let's talk about that. And you guys want to do that? Let's go back and watch some of Cam's biggest blunders in his press conferences. This was always entertaining.
Hey, leave Cam out of this.
I'm just saying.
You're right. Is that
you don't remember the Donkey Kong suit?
Oh, there's nothing wrong with that, man. All right, this cancel culture. He would have been fired for this culture right now.
But I was wondering.
We all have those cues.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times, at first, you have to train them out. You really have to hear yourself speak a lot and know your tendencies of what you try to do. And even when you know that, it's really hard to extricate them from your style of speaking. The thing I do think about, the reason we do some of this and is that it gives us a moment to think about what we're about to say.
Yeah.
So
100%.
Cams were hilarious, dude. You guys got to go back and watch this. I did a parody of a Cam Newton press conference after this loss, and where Joe Person asked him, "Do you think you have the wherewithal to something?" And Cam was such a pissy, but it was so awesome. It was such a good press. If you could watch them side by side, I think it would be funny. So Sam Darnold, he said all the right things there, right? He's saying all the right things. He was asked, here is the tougher question of the bunch, I thought. And I don't know if this might have been from Elena Getzenberg. This might have been a Charlotte Observer.
Hey, Sam, I have two quick questions.
Nope.
The first, what is your relationship with Teddy Bridgewater? Have you talked to him since coming to Carolina? And what do you like about having that competition with him?
I love this one.
Yeah, I've always admired Teddy. Being with him in New York, we became close friends there, and we would talk every now and then. But I haven't talked to him since the trade went down. But looking forward to that interaction, and I'm looking forward to.
So this one comment right here births a story on Pro Football Talk. Is it which one is the Mike Florio? Is that the one? Is that Pro Football Talk?
Pro Football Talk.
And their whole mandate, Darren Gant used to write for them. Now he writes for the Panthers.com. But their whole mandate is to chew out, like 75 to 100 word blogs that have a really juicy title to them. And they're quick reads. Actually, I think there is a place for some of this type of media too. But their headline was Darnold hasn't spoken to Teddy Bridgewater. Like, so it's kind of like,
no shit. Of course he hasn't.
Yeah,
I love it. But can I tell you this? Like, Sam, the one line that I think I've heard him say in this is, "I'm looking forward to our interaction." You know damn well that dude is not looking forward to that. That quarterback room.
But they're friends. They're friends. They knew each other.
No,
dude, it's the shit that they have to say because they're teammates. And I understand, but I think we all know Teddy Bridgewater and Sam Darnold are not going to be on the same team by the time the 2021 season starts. Teddy Bridgewater is out the door. I'm telling you.
I know the Broncos, somebody from within the Broncos said the only way that they're going to trade for him is if we agreed to eat a significant portion of his salary.
We might have to. We really might have to.
He's a bum. We'll get we got our guest coming in just a moment. Tim Jenkins, former NFL quarterback and host of All Things QB, former coach of PJ Walker. So we'll get a lot of thoughts. We'll have to ask him what he thinks about Teddy. I do, before we welcome in our guest and move on, though, I did say this, is that if you had a question you could have asked Sam Darnold in his press conference, and Cody, you tried to play this, what would it be? And you tried to caveat this question with, would they answer it? Things like that. I don't want you to hide from that. What would the question be? No holds bar. What would it be if you could ask it? You don't have to worry about your credentials being pulled or anything like that. What would your question to Sam Darnold have been?
Oh, man, that really is tough. I would say, what's it like to actually have a supporting cast of legitimate weapons around you? Like, I would want to throw shade.
He would say, "You know what? Answer would be, I don't know." His answer would be, "I don't know."
I feel like New York media and New York fans have dissed Sam Darnold so hard that I would want to send a jab back at them, like, "Hey, what's it like to be in a place that'll finally build around you and respect your talent?"
Mine was similar to that. Like, mine's along the same lines of, first and foremost, what's it like coming from an organization so inept that they can't even build a quality football team around their number 3 pick, to where the majority of the blame isn't even on the quarterback not being able to play well. It's on the coach being that bad of a coach. To now on a team that has Matt Rule and Joe Brady, who have been highly praised up to this point for what they've done as a coaching squad. What does that feel like going from that to this? You know, it would be very long-winded, but in a way to just shoot down the Jets and the amount of people that do want to try to, like, I mean, it's kind of insane if you think about it. Like, it's kind of insane to think that the quarterback isn't being blamed as much as that organization was as a whole.
Here's my question for Sammy right here is that you said just a moment ago you're excited to come to the Carolina Panthers and for this opportunity. My question is, Sam, if Joe Brady had somehow landed a head coaching position like we thought, and we had to hire a new offensive coordinator, and we hired Adam Gase, would you be excited to come to the Carolina Panthers?
Dude,
That would be my question. Nobody asked him about the coaching and stuff like that. So
I'm assuming they had some off limits.
Maybe that's a good question, or that's a good point. Cody, let's go ahead and bring in our guest, Tim Jenkins, former NFL quarterback. Jenkins Elite. I hope I got that right. I've been watching. I looked all over the website today, which is awesome. By the way, whoever designed your website, and if you did it yourself, that would be even cooler. You got a beautiful website, dude. Former coach of PJ Walker, mentor PJ Walker, Tim Jenkins. I actually, when Scott Mason said, you got to get this guy on, I said, well, send me the name. I was like, I watch this guy's YouTube channel all the time, dude. Welcome to the C3 Panthers podcast.
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me. This is awesome. We got the comments rolling. This is very cool. I appreciate you guys.
Yeah, we have the longest running Panthers podcast. We're going to have, there's like 30 calls in the hole. We'll probably be up all night. We're going to move it along at some point. We are long-winded. The fans want to know a lot. And I guess the first question we got to ask is, what are we getting with, well, I would say first, I watched your video very closely about Sam Darnold's 2020 season. I thought it was very informative. I encourage everybody to go look at it. It wasn't overwhelming too for people, like in a way that for someone like me, I'm not a good X and O guy. I'm just I have an eyeball test when it comes to football. Not only are your videos informative, though, I thought you brought it down into a very digestible format of like, let's look at some good, let's look at some bad, and let's look at some upside. Tell us what you think, though, of Sam Darnold's the trade to the Carolina, making the trade, and what Sam Darnold could maybe be for this team.
I mean, I think you got to start with the value, because I did not expect Sam Darnold to cost as little as he did. I mean, I understand that he statistically looked really, really bad on paper this year. But when you really boil down the tape, like, you see everything that everybody saw when they were talking about him as a top quarterback in the league. And then you saw the Adam Gase effect, which is, hey, we're going to run 14 plays a game that we just installed this week because we think we're going to take advantage of a certain look. And they never got the look. So listen, I think I after watching the tape, I'm a huge Sam Darnold fan. I joke with, I unfortunately went somewhere that, we have somebody with PJ, but I do think Sam Darnold's got a ton of upside. And I honestly the biggest thing is when you look at it from the value, because everyone earlier this year was saying, hey, if you're going to trade for Sam Darnold, it's this year's first, next year's second as well. Like, there were so many different numbers getting thrown out that at that point it didn't make sense. With what you guys got him for, I think it's a no-brainer. And I really think that with what Joe Brady does and where it's going in terms of, getting in and out of plays at the line of scrimmage, Sam's he's gonna crush it for you guys. I just think it's a no-brainer fit for Carolina.
We've looked over and over, or I guess we've debated over and over as fans, is how much is this was Sam Darnold, how much of this was the situation, and how much of this was Adam Gase. We've learned that the New York Jets didn't even have a quarterback's coach, that Adam Gase was the head coach, the play caller, and the quarterback coach. And we saw a regression in some ways with Sam Darnold. At least that's what my Jets friends like Scott has told me is that he's not getting better on some of the things that he you kind of wrote off in his earlier seasons. So as Panther fans, we go, well, this is Gase. This is Gase. This is coaching. This is coaching. And we know the famous I'm seeing ghosts moment. And we say, well, it's the offensive line. It's the offensive line. As you watch the New York Jets tape and Sam Darnold, what did you learn about the Gase offense? And like, because I'm kind of I wanted to know, was the offense that Gase called one that was good for the players on the team, including Sam Darnold? What did you see from the offense? Because everybody says he's a guru, or actually nobody says he's a guru. Only the Jets believed he was a guru, and maybe Peyton Manning will give him a clap.
Well, listen, Peyton Manning's going to get a lot of guys' jobs, so you can't blame anybody for seeing what he did with Peyton Manning and then saying, oh, this guy's going to do it with our core. It just, that's the nature of the NFL. I do think when you look at Adam Gase's offense, I want to peel back a couple layers because, one, there's still misses from Sam, right? So there's 2 or 3 interceptions this year where he goes through the progression correctly. They ran a ton of PSL. Like, to simplify that, it's just, hey, 2 shall read this side, 3 shall read this side. That's kind of what I would say the base of their offense is. There's times where Sam got to the right spot and just airmailed the ball. That was, to me, a biomechanic breakdown. A lot of it, though, I would attribute to the O-line play, right? When you're used to ending up on your back, it's real hard to worry about your heel alignment, right? There's a lot of stuff that goes into throwing, and if you're getting pummeled all game, it's tough to really care about that, right? But that's where I would say a piece of it was. But with Gase's offense, it's not all him. And the reason I say that is because there were so many times where the right play was called and their receiver just lost. Like, they would run a 9-yard stop route and the DB would just muscle him outside and pick the ball. Like, that doesn't happen. Every other NFL team I've watched this year so far studying quarterbacks, that hasn't happened. And it happened to the Jets twice. So I want to say, hey, it's all Adam Gase, but in reality, it's a combination of the crew. I do think Sam, in a new situation with a fresh start, is going to excel. That the last play I put on there of, hey, a clear, hey, trap coverage, Denver's bringing them into a single high, he kills, get to the right look, and they run the deep over. That's next level quarterbacking. That's the stuff that you see Aaron Rodgers and, Phillip Rivers and all those kind of guys that consistently have good, seasons. That's what they do. And that's where you've really got to bet on Sam. When you see stuff like that, I just am a believer that he's going to come in and be able to do that, especially with a guy like Joe Brady, who teaches the game in a really good manner. And that because he was teaching, college kids, right, plays. And anytime you have to boil it down, because we have to pretend those kids go to class, anytime you got to install it with the guys that were pretending go to school is, you're doing it different than when they get to the NFL.
Tim, in your video, you pointed out Sam's ability to make some really high-level throws on the run. And that even though he was able to make some of those plays, then he would turn around and then throw back across the middle of the field right to a linebacker and just make a boneheaded mistake. And you even kind of alluded to this in your video. How do you go about teaching someone how to be a better decision maker? Is it just going to be Sam building trust with the new weapons that he has here? Or is there something that Joe Brady and our new quarterback coach, Sean Ryan, who has been with Deshaun Watson before, he's been with Matthew Stafford, is there anything particular they can do for Sam to help him make better decisions?
That's a great question. I think, the point of putting in the unreal scramble plays that he made that were great and then following it up with putting the, interceptions right behind it was because as a coaching staff, you see that and you have to then make a conscious decision what we're going to do with it. Because there's 2 solutions, right? One, you coach it out of him. You say, listen, when we're in scramble drill, we want you to take whatever's in front of you, or we want you to go get 5 yards and get down. That's one way, because you're going to then eliminate the mistakes. However, you'll also eliminate the big plays. So It's really got to be an organizational decision. Personally, with what I saw with Sam, really there were 3 picks, and I think I put them almost all on the video, but there were 3 picks. That's going to hurt you, but I would tell you there were probably 20 to 30 chunk plays. In that ratio, I'm turning the kid free, right? I'm saying, hey, man, I know that we have 3 picks each year, but I'll take the 30 chunk plays and I'll deal with the other stuff. That's what Kansas City's doing with Mahomes, right? Green Bay does it with Aaron Rodgers. How many times have we seen Aaron Rodgers extend the play, throw the stick at 8 post? That gets picked off every once in a while, but the other 30 plays, that's what wins you ball games. So I think with Sam, I'd lean more towards, hey, keep trusting your instincts. Of course, you want to eliminate the one where, he's trying to throw the deep over and it's double covered. Like, that's just stupid, right? Of course, you want to try to eliminate that. But, being a guy who's, not at the level of Sam, but has had to run around and try to see what's out there. Sometimes you're just like, you see something that looks open, you look back on tape and you go, wow, why did I do that?
Yeah.
So I think that's probably, what Sam would tell you about the deep over he tried to throw late. But I would say, it's just going to be an organizational decision. I'd be in the camp of keep trusting his instincts when he's on the run.
Right, and let me ask you this. Let's speak about Christian McCaffrey a little bit. Having a bell cow running back, a player like Christian McCaffrey that, frankly, Sam didn't really have a chance to have in New York. I mean, he had Le'Veon Bell, but it was an entirely different situation. The offensive line wasn't quite where it needed to be. How much do you think it's going to help Sam's development that we have such a potent offense with a player like McCaffrey, who we're essentially going to make such a huge part of our game plan, that Sam isn't going to have to be forced into making a crazy play every single time?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be huge. And I don't even think we saw the full Christian McCaffrey effect in this offense, because he's going to do so much stuff out of the backfield where they motion him back in or they motion him out and see if they can get a backer on him. But then all of a sudden, right, if you decide to keep your nickel, or you take your nickel outside, or you put your corner with him, well, now you guys have unbelievable matchups with DJ Moore, whoever in the slot. I think what Carolina can do with Christian is going to make everything so much easier. And the amount of single high coverage they're going to see because they have Christian in the backfield is going to make a quarterback's job easier too. So what I tell Carolina Panthers fans, I think you're going to see a ton of Christian McCaffrey out of the backfield. And I think you're also going to see a ton of, 2-shell, kill the 3-shell plays. I think whoever's under center next year, you'll hear a ton of kill. And it's because all they're saying is, hey, 2-shell, motion Christian back in. We're going to run the ball. Hey, if you get single high, kill it. We're going to keep the pass play on. And that's as easy as it gets when it comes to playing football. And when you have a great running back, that's what it gives you, especially a dude who's so multifaceted like Christian is, right? There's certain guys that they're deadly from the backfield, but Christian's a dude that legitimately I would put up as a slot receiver against most slot receivers in the league. So I just think that, priority is making sure he stays healthy this year, but the amount of, the way it's going to simplify the box for Sam when he's learning a new offense is going to be, it's going to be really special.
Yeah, and my final question, do you think that Sam will have a Ryan Tannehill-like jump, or maybe a little better, or maybe a little bit below that? What would you say?
I would say I would expect him to take a jump this year. What I would tell you in the long term, though, is he is exponentially more gifted than Ryan Tannehill. So when you talk about, hey, if you can get him to his ceiling, I joked about it on Twitter. I thought the Jets would move him on draft night, and I legitimately thought that could be what we remember this draft for, right? Because everyone's like, oh, there's 5 great quarterbacks. We do this every year, right? There's 5 franchise quarterbacks that are going to change the game forever. But legitimately, whoever got Sam Darnold that night might have actually gotten who's going to end up being the best guy. Let's not forget how young he is. And then let's not forget, we have NFL tape on him. All these other quarterbacks, they're high risk. I don't know what they're actually bad at. I've got to try to decipher it from film study. But Ohio State is basically like evaluating Star Wars. The offense it's like watching the Jenkins family turkey bowl, right? It's just dudes running all over the field. Every once in a while we pop Aunt Judy open on the deep over, and even I look good. But, I just think when you talk about Sam Darnold, you're talking about a guy who what he struggles with. You can game plan around it, but he is uber freaking talented. I tell everybody this. I legitimately think if Sam Darnold ended up in Kansas City and Patrick Mahomes ended up in New York, their careers would be flipped as well. Like, you can't not talk about fit and timing and who's around them. You give a majority of NFL quarterbacks Kansas City's roster. Alex Smith looked great, right? Let's not forget how good he was doing before Mahomes took over. So it's a lot. There's a lot to be said about scheme and who's around him. And I'm just a huge believer in Sam after watching the tape. After looking at just, the rough highlights and the stats, I was like, oh man, this kid had a terrible year. Then I popped on the tape and I'm like, oh my gosh, right? Everyone's crucifying him. And in reality, let's attribute 12% of the New York Jets struggle to him because everything else was just a dumpster fire around him.
Let's go back to the bonehead plays and kind of the one thing that is the standout, right? Is that you look at the interceptions, you look at some of these interceptions, really, you looked at when I was watching your film, I was just like, you just don't do that. This is dumb.
Yeah.
You just can't. But I'm trying to look at his career holistically rather than just in a single moment in a single season with a single play. Comes in early pick to a team that's not great, obviously, at the moment. Todd Bowles, I love this guy. I think is probably the Jets' best head coach. They gave him nothing, and he always churned out a great defense. Sam Darnold, to me, was, and this is an outsider, so I don't watch the Jets super closely, but it looked like his rookie season was like his best year. And then you kind of go into his second year and you see this regression in a way. My question is that if you think about the Jets just being a god-awful team last year, just bad, right? Is that the fact that they won one game was kind of mind-blowing in a way. We were all sitting here going, it's Trevor Lawrence to the Jets. And then all of a sudden they pulled off a win for Adam Gase somehow. Was any of the kind of these terrible moments, is it exacerbated by Darnold just having to feel like we got to come back? We got to I almost would wonder, is it mental fatigue of just having to always make some sort of amazing play to even be in the game? You're already been down 30 at this point or something like that.
Yeah, I think a lot of it has to do with when you feel like you're always in comeback mode, you're going to start, think about basketball, right? If you're in comeback mode, you start jacking up some threes that those wouldn't fly if this was a tight game, right? But hey, we're in comeback mode, so go ahead and pull the trigger. And I think that's what you saw a lot on tape. I think, more or less you just saw an erosion of, protection. And then you listen, I'm not like a great football fan. I don't watch a ton on Sundays. I usually am working, but I watch all the tape. It was hard for me to pick out a Jets player that I was like, oh, wow, I'd trade for him. Everybody was like, oh God, it's just not,
even Jamal Adams was running for the hills. He even forced his way up.
They lost some 50-50 balls that really were 80-20 balls, and somehow it gets intercepted. And it's just, I think you have to put a lot of it from an organizational standpoint. And that's why I do think the Jets probably looked at it from, hey, it's time for us to move on, but it's also time for Sam to move on because he is uber talented. And I just think there's certain times where just everything gets kind of eroded between a quarterback and an organization. And I think it was for the best. But you brought up a great point. And it's true, right? When you're getting your butt kicked all the time and you're down 21, of course you're going to start, throwing late down the middle and trying to drive a post against cover 3. You're just going to do stuff because, hey, man, we got to come back. And guess what? If we don't, we only lost by 20, or we lost by 28 instead of 24, right? Does it really matter at that point? No, because your job's to win. So I think I think you brought up a fair point. And I think when you look at the tape, there were a couple where it's just, hey, that's a bad break, or he's trying to press, and that's all it is.
Tell us about PJ Walker. How you know him? Tell us about your connection to him.
I mean, PJ was in one of my first draft classes. So PJ's super special to me. He came out, lived in the house, and, we got him from Temple. And then, that kid, you talk about a hard worker. That kid goes from, Temple to everybody's telling him he's too short. He gets cut by the Colts a million times, goes to the XFL, and then sticks with you guys. When I look at PJ, obviously I'm pulling for him and I'm biased, and I'd love to see him get a real shot when he's got a week to prep. But he's just a hardworking kid, right? He comes out every summer. He was here, a month ago, and he was playing, Nerf basketball with my little 4-year-old boy on that hoop down here. So he's a great dude. He works his butt off, and PJ, I don't know if you guys have had a chance to meet him, but he's one of those kids that, he's world class. He loves the game. He keeps to himself. He's not going to get in any trouble, and he works his ass off. So for me, I'm a huge PJ Walker fan.
Tim, let me tell you, we have a bunch of fans, especially after PJ came in and quarterbacked us to a 20-0 win over the Detroit Lions. Let me tell you, there were a lot more PJ Walker fans amongst the Panthers fan base than there were Bridgewater fans. That's a promise, dude. So, yeah. We still have people that come in here that are like, yeah, man, we need to let PJ start. We need to let him have his shot at the starting job, man. So he definitely flashes big time.
Yeah,
here's a tough question. The tough question about PJ is what's it take for a guy like him to break through in the NFL? Because a lot of us wanted to, you're rooting for those moments and those players. We had a guy, we were not big fans of Bridgewater because of the limitations on the arm talent. And there's a lot of different things. And we'll get to that in just a moment. But we were of the mindset, and part of this was us moving on from Cam. We're big Cam Newton fans, and it was tough leaving our quarterback, cutting him to the wind. So we were kind of thinking, man, we wanted to run this. If you're going to get rid of Cam, don't bring in Bridgewater. Let's run this with Will Grier and PJ Walker, and let's see what happens. And at the worst case scenario, we're just at the top of the draft like we were going to probably be anyway. That would have been a situation where maybe PJ could get a chance. And if he shows out and stuff, maybe he could secure a more important position with the team. Then you're starting to wonder if Teddy Bridgewater would have gotten hurt, which he kind of did for a moment, and it gave PJ an opportunity. What kind of team does PJ need to be with to get a shot? And how hard is it on these guys? You've been in the NFL. It's like an Olympian battle, a Herculean battle, to say you get one shot this game, and you're either we're gonna think highly of you, or you're tossed to the trash can. It's a tough thing. What would it take for him to get a shot? And was this kind of the moment, and the Panthers didn't give it to him, kind of?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. For one, to get a shot, really, in reality, any of these guys need a game and then a week to prep, and that's kind of what you saw from his start, right? The red zone turnover you can't have, or I guess both of them. But you need a week and then you need a game. I mean, you saw Heineke, right, in Washington, and now the dude signed a $10 million contract, and you really, you're rooting for these guys. I honestly, from the outside looking in, my best case scenario was I thought Carolina was going to get rid of Teddy and then try to trade up and draft like Trey Lance. And I was like, oh, that's perfect, because PJ will start the first 6 games and then he'll never give that job back. Right. That's nice. Obviously I'm rooting for him. But, that was kind of where I think the best case situation is. You still never know what's going to happen with Teddy. Right. There's talks I'm in Denver right now, and there's talks that, hey, Denver's in the market for Teddy. So,
take him,
yeah.
Please.
It'll be interesting to see what happens with him. But I do think, a guy like PJ, the kind of fit is, what Joe Brady does, which is, primarily from the gun, the modified quick game with the deep shots. That PJ's got a cannon. So I think that's he's in a great situation. But in reality, PJ's, wants to make the team again, wants to try to get a few starts like he did last year, and hopefully perform with them, and then kind of, hopefully sign a bigger deal for him. So I think any of these guys, though, man, they're just looking for an opportunity. And the NFL is just such a crapshoot, right? We probably don't know who Tom Brady is if Drew Bledsoe never gets hurt. And that's something that we all forget is
broken chest or broken sternum or some mess like that. If you are this draft is one of the most anticipated drafts, I think, and I've argued that this is going to be the most exciting draft, arguably, of my generation. And the reason I think this is because it's so quarterback heavy in the beginning. There's an excitement factor there. We've already had trades coming out. I think average fans know the names of the players that are going in the top 10 more so than normal. Is that if you had a tackle going at 2 and then a tackle, as we all think that they're going to be good and they're great and we expect everybody to know what they're doing, but we never really heard of the dude, if you're just a casual fan. But we've all heard at this point ad nauseum about Justin Fields, Trey Lance, Mac Jones, Trevor Lawrence, Zach Wilson. It's kind of a two-part question. Is if you were going to rank your quarterbacks at those first 5 or 4 or 5, where you can pick on that, what would your order be as a GM? And then last, there's a point of kind of argument, contention among Panther fans. Some of us do not like Mac Jones, and some people think that Mac Jones is like I don't even know what they think. But anyway, your thoughts on Mac Jones after you rank him?
Yeah, so I'm not going to be very popular, but here's what I'll tell you. When I look at these guys, and when I did my film studies on them, and then I ranked them, everything had to do with where I think they'll end up, and it has nothing to do with where I think they'll be drafted. I like to preface that, because if you don't draft Trevor Lawrence at 1, you just get fired as a GM, right? Like, that's just what happens. So unfortunately, no matter what he thought, that's what he's going to have to do.
Right.
What I would tell you is where I came down on it. Zach Wilson at 1. The reason I say that, all the arm angle changes are going to give him an advantage. In terms of eye manipulation, he was the best I thought in this class. And I don't mean holding the safety and then throwing a go. I mean manipulating the nickel Sam and curl flat, right? Like high-level stuff that you see from NFL vets, he was doing at BYU. So that's why I had Zach Wilson at 1. Trevor Lawrence, I had it 2 for all the reasons that a lot of people have Trevor Lawrence at 1. The one thing that I would point out on his tape is he struggled immensely against rotational coverages. So, hey, if they started in 2 and they snapped down to cover 1 robber, or they started in 3 and rotated back to quarters, he would make we would call it an eye error, right, which is looking to the wrong side, damn near every time. So that's not something that's like, oh, it's okay, he'll work his way out of it. That's, to me, worrisome, because we don't talk about Peyton Manning and Tom Brady as some of the greatest of all time because they're world-class athletes, right? We talk about them because they process the game and they shred people apart. So, but I would still put Trevor Lawrence at 2. I have Justin Fields and Mac Jones dead even at 3, and it's literally based on system, right? It's whoever you want. The Justin Fields processing debate and all that stuff, to me, not real, right? Justin Fields does a great job processing the game. The issue is Ohio State's offense. Ohio State's offense doesn't have built-in sights. It looks like Star Wars. It's some of the worst stuff I've ever seen. The way the coaching staff, the system they ran for him against Alabama in the national championship game was criminal. Like, they could have done so much, and they just basically said, hey, Nick Saban, we know you created this, quarters match man defense to stop these concepts, and we're going to run them against you. Like, it was the craziest thing I've ever seen. Mac Jones. The reason I love Mac Jones, and I hate doing this to people, is for all of the, I would call it work in the dark that he does at the line of scrimmage. It's all the unsexy stuff. The amount of times that he got Alabama in and out of the correct run play at the line of scrimmage was more than we've seen any prospect to date do. Like, they ran a ton of, hey, 60 Bruce, kill the 50 OP, and it's always based on a box count, and he always got them to the right side. So it's like stuff that's not sexy, or he manipulated the mic a ton to account for protection. Those are 2 things that when you look at if San Fran really traded up to get him, that's why, is because they believed in everything he was doing at the line of scrimmage with the run game, manipulating protections. And then not to mention, when you watch Alabama's offense, it's easy to project guys because, you see deep over, you see the Harveys, you see the stick at 8 posts, you kind of see all that stuff. So that's where I would say I think Mac Jones, Justin Fields is based on really, what kind of guy you want. Then I have Kellen Mond at 5, and I have Jamie Newman at 6. Yeah, I have Trey Lance at 7. If this is like a
oh my god, I watched your Trey Lance video and you liked him.
I like him. I have nothing against the kid. Everything that you've been sold from what he does at the line of scrimmage, though, is a lie. Like, everyone's like, okay, here's a great one. I don't know. Maybe I'm the only one that's seen these quotes, but everyone says, hey, he set the protection. No, he didn't. The center at North Dakota State points the mic. So how could he possibly set the protection? Unless North Dakota State has some sort of different, system for identifying the mic than everybody else. But when the center's going like this, the center's pointing the mic. Then everyone says, oh, he was in charge of the backside of the play. No, he wasn't. He never signaled anything. So, like, I get that it's, listen, it was my job to lie about PJ to help his draft stock. That's what coaches do. We lie to make our guys go up the draft board. And everyone's like, oh, well, then someone won't take you serious next time. Bullshit. The next time we have another top guy, we'll just say it again, and the scouts are going to be like, oh, okay, yeah, I see what he's saying. Like, don't give me that. That's not true.
He said this. As my man said, I like Mac Jones for all the unsexy things, but he didn't say the most unsexy thing about him, which is his dad-ass body. This guy looks like he smoked cigarettes and then walked out onto the football field. Is there any... and I guess back to Trey Lance just on this.
Yeah.
Again, I've watched your videos. You know what you're talking about. I am just a fan talking about things from a very biased perspective. The one thing I did like when I watched Trey Lance, though, is that he operated under center a lot. And when I watched the other quarterbacks, and I watched your Justin Fields video, and I kept watching. I was like, when are we going to see him not in the gun? And I know that's not entirely his fault, but I did like that about Trey Lance. Are there any issues or thought? I think Trevor Lawrence is another one like this. Is that always out of the gun?
I mean, yeah, you've got to factor it in, especially if it's something that you really want to do, right? If you're sitting there saying, "Hey, we've got to be under center for run game and run action," then it's something you got to be concerned about. My only other caveat with Trey Lance, and again, I always have to go super hard against him because everyone loves him, and he is a good prospect. It's just where we're comparing him, I don't feel is accurate, and then everyone always goes, well, Mac Jones was the guys he was playing with were so talented. Talent doesn't matter. It's not about who you're playing with. It's the talent spread by comparison. Mac Jones, with his roster in the SEC, the talent is more relative there than North Dakota State against anyone they played. North Dakota State, there's a play that I highlight on Trey Lance where the tight end's legitimately open by 30 yards on each side. Like, I'm not making it. There's legitimately 30 yards between the nearest defender. Show me that clip on Mac Jones. Like, it doesn't exist. Show me that clip on Trevor Lawrence or Zach Wilson. And so for me, it's like, we've kind of built Trey Lance. I saw someone call him Andrew Luck, and it just was like, okay, like, I guess we just say anything. It would be easier for me to just get on Twitter and be like, Trey Lance is the next coming of Andrew Luck, and Mac Jones isn't athletic, but I just don't think that that's for me, it wasn't
Colin
part of my
Kaepernick
evaluation.
He looks like Colin Kaepernick in some ways.
He's a beast athletically. We got to be honest
Jones have the arm? Does Mac Jones have the arm that everybody says?
Well, I wanted to jump in and ask Tim a question on this, because you're talking about physical potential, right? And how Trey Lance, he's definitely physically gifted. No one can say that he isn't, right? Mm-hmm. But when you look at a guy like, say, Justin Herbert last year, going from Oregon to the Chargers, the plays that he was making downfield, it was, none of the best analysts in the game ever thought that Justin Herbert was going to make that much of a jump in his accuracy down the football field. So how do you pinpoint the jump a player may or may not be able to take? Like, just because you haven't seen a player do a lot of something, it doesn't necessarily mean that under the right circumstances, maybe with a year to sit, that he might not be able to pick up on that very quick. Which, from all the reports, they say that Trey Lance is a very quick learner, that he does pick up things very often. So how do you gauge how fast a player may or may not be able to pick up new concepts that he didn't have to work with in college?
That's true. I actually watched Justin Herbert this week, so this is actually a perfect question.
Okay, cool.
What the Chargers did with him, which I thought was fascinating, and what more NFL teams need to do, the amount of empty that they ran to really declutter the box and simplify his progression was tremendous. And that expedited his learning curve. And I think you saw that build throughout the season to where then they started bringing more bunch and condensed sets in. that's why Cam struggled in New England. Cam didn't struggle because I think Cam's bad. Cam struggled because the amount of condensed sets New England runs, you can't account for nickel pressure the same as when you're spread. And when he was in Carolina, it was all spread. So I do think teams need to get into more empty, get into more 10 to really help young quarterbacks. From the aspect of can he sit and learn? Absolutely. The only caveat I would tell you, this is what I've been telling everybody, just be careful what you hear, the narrative of, hey, from everything we've heard, he's a quick learner. There was a quarterback who came from LSU, who everyone in LSU's building said is the hardest working kid we've ever had. Then he got to Oakland and he couldn't put down the purple drink. And now we all know him as Jamarcus Russell. So for me, it's like, yeah, I appreciate what the college coaches say, but like, let's not forget LSU pounding the table for Jamarcus Russell as the best worker they've ever had. And then Oakland being like, hey, his fat ass won't show up for camp. So for me, it's like, we gotta.
He was sipping scissor.
Take everything they say with the grain of salt.
He was sipping that scissor.
Yeah, what was that you were saying about coaches lying for their guys?
Yeah, I do it. Listen, I do it every day. I got a bunch of college coaches that'll ask me about our high school guys, and I'll be like, "Oh yeah, he's the smartest kid I've had. He's got like a D in algebra 1, right?" But you just gotta. Your job is to help your guys, and that's what they're doing.
Yeah.
So I have a few that's kind of built up along this. First, I want to go back to PJ Walker. And it seems that you guys have a pretty close relationship. After his game where he did, obviously we won and he was able to, we won 20-0. A lot of that having to do with the defense and your offense, not just, throwing the game away, but those red zone interceptions had a lot. Cody is right. There were a lot of PJ fans, but I think he's over exaggerating. There were a lot of PJ haters because of those interceptions. What was that conversation with him like afterwards, or did you even have a chance to talk to him about those interceptions?
Yeah, I talked to him. Right. I mean, the instant reaction right after the game was, "Hey, he was real pumped up. He just won his first NFL start."
Yeah.
On Monday, the conversation was quickly around like, "What the hell happened? You didn't see the corner?" And there his 2 interceptions were one of those where it's one needs to be a high hat in the back pylon, and the other's just a no throw. So I think it's for us, there were different progressions that we addressed when he was out here in the spring. There were different issues that I saw.
Yeah.
That of course, fans and analysts were going to hammer the red zone picks, but there were other things that I thought he missed throughout the game that we really wanted to work on, and then the off script throws. You guys run a ton of, I call it YN. They have a different name for it, but it's just a seam with a big dig. PJ trying to hit either first window or second window. That was something that we were trying to work on a lot out here. So there's a lot of nuance side of it that really we kind of addressed on Monday. But, the gut instinct was you're pumped for the kid, right? He just won his first NFL start.
Shut out.
It was pretty funny too, because we run a lot of our group training sessions on Sunday. So there's a couple pictures of me just carrying my phone around so we could, stream the game. And there's a lot of, young quarterbacks that have worked out with them side by side, because PJ always comes out and kind of works next to some of the other kiddos on, Sundays to make them feel the love. And it was a cool experience. But no, there was a lot of stuff that we needed to address after the start. And hopefully we got it all out of the way.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad to hear that was a learning experience. Obviously, it's great to have a learning experience out of the good times and not necessarily all the bad times. But, definitely one of the highlights of our season to see him go out there. The moment he threw that first deep ball, we were all just like, oh, yes, this is what we've been waiting for. Please, please, please come back to the team or come back to next week. We were just all. I'm not going to say exactly what
we were rooting
for
that knee injury. We were rooting for that knee injury. Buddy.
There were some statements of arousal that took place in the podcast after. I'll just state that anyway. But the second question I have is going back to Darnold. So Darnold's coming to the Panthers. If you were in Darnold's shoes, you look at the Panthers, you see the coaching staff, you see the offensive weapons. What is it that makes you most excited about the Panthers as Darnold that you didn't have when you were a Jet?
I would say the full field progression plays. Like, I would look at the tape and be excited. everything in New York was kind of built on half line reads. You guys are really built more on full field progressions, meaning like, hey, we like this play against every coverage, and here's where your eyes are going to go, right? 1, 2, 3. You guys have some PSLs in there too, but man, I would be most excited from the fact that I have guys who can actually stretch the field, but then 2, I have probably one of the brightest young minds in football. And not to mention, I have a running back who's going to be able to change the game just because I'm going to be able to, motion him back to the backfield, find out man zone quickly. There's just so much that an elite back gets you. And but I would tell you the playbook. I would just look at what they did last year on tape, and I'd say, man, I can't wait to get there. And it looked like he was thinking that, man. The reaction video he had was it looked like he was ready to get the heck out of New York.
Oh, yeah. They had a party. They had a damn party. They had a party. I wanted to ask you about the idea. What have you heard about, I guess, the Panthers in the way that the coaches are teachers? And the reason that I asked is actually I have 2-part questions. Like, have you heard anything about how they teach? Because that we thought that the rules staff that they put together, that seemed to be a strength, is that these guys know how to beat. It's one thing to a teacher is like those who can't teach. I teach history for a living. I'm a college history instructor at a community college, but there's a gift in being able to teach, right? And some of the things with the old hats, I thought maybe was their inability to reach young players. So what have you heard about their ability to teach? And then second, if you could just comment on what you think about Joe Brady being this young in such a big stage with really relatively little experience, your thoughts on just that whole situation.
Yeah, so I mean, from the ability to teach, I think a lot of that comes from they got a lot of college guys, right, or guys with college experience, and that level really is more about player development, right? The NFL, it is player development centric, but let's be honest, it's hey, do your job or we're going to fire you and find someone else. So I think anytime you get guys from the college game, you're going to get better teachers. And I'd say about his inexperience, I text a lot of our guys this quote is, hey, experts, an amateur built the Ark and experts built the Titanic, right? So, in terms of experience, it doesn't necessarily always translate to everything. And I think, sometimes when you got a young guy who's willing to push the boundaries, you get some innovative play calls. So I think, when I looked at your guys' tape, man, you guys were inside and on every single cutting edge thing that happened this year. Samurai was like the most popular play in the NFL, which is a deep post or a stick and a post with a deep over. You guys ran it like week 2. So you guys were ahead of the curve with everything. I do think that, I wouldn't worry about him. To me, the bigger concern were teams that were looking for him as the head coach, right? Yeah. I think that's it's one thing to be an offensive coordinator where you get to, enjoy what you do. It's a whole nother to be a head coach, right? And have to answer the play call. So, or answer, just for everything, not just your play call. So I do think that's where I would worry about it. But from an offensive coordinator perspective, I thought, based on the film, you guys were ahead of the curve on most stuff. And then you guys caught up to anything else that was trending in the NFL quickly. So he was doing a good job, or whoever's, in the Carolina Panthers who's watching everyone else's tape was doing a good job of flagging concepts they thought could be successful.
You've been in NFL training camps. I've just watched them from the outside of the fence. One of the things that's interesting to me is that we've heard. Actually, I've interviewed a lot of old players. Like we used to do this segment where's that cat now, and I would catch up with former Panthers and see what they're doing. And then like I said, I'm a historian, so I go read the newspaper for like their whole 12-year career and find all these little stories. They loved it. A lot of times I saw these guys, they were talking about the two-a-days, the hard hitting, people breaking jaws in practice, this and that. Now with the agreements that we have is that, and this is college and pros, less hitting, less practice, less this. So I've gone to these training camps ever since I was started this podcast. And the thing I want to just get your perspective, always said this, they call it practice. But when I think about practice, it's about doing the same thing over like 1,200 times. I watch these guys and they practice it one time. They go run this route one time. Each receiver does it once and that's it. It's over. speak to how do you break? I don't even know what the question is on this. It's just like, how do you do that if you're a player on the edge, the bubble?
Yeah.
How do you even fit into that world where you get one rep and by the time they get to your rep, nobody's watching?
Yeah, it is it's pretty fascinating. When I was in St. Louis, it was kind of at the beginning, obviously it's old because St. Louis, that's a whole different story. I can't wait till my little boy is old enough to realize that I played football. And he'll be like, Dad, what team did you play for? And I'll say St. Louis. He's like, a team's out there. You didn't play in the NFL, right? I'll be like,
You
but no, when I was there, it was right on the cusp, right? Brian Schottenheimer was my OC, and he would talk about going with his dad, Marty, to training camp. And, man, it was crazy. And they would tell these stories. I looked around and I was like, I don't know how the heck an undrafted linebacker makes a team. Like, you don't hit.
Right.
So how are they going to know if you can tackle? And then they don't care. And then you're just stuck doing 7-on-7, which you're not going to be good at because you're a linebacker who hits people for a living. So, that's tough. And then now when you talk about it from the reduced OTAs or, hey, we're going to do virtual or this or this or this, and again, I'm not going to begin to give my opinion on everything because I'm not a doctor. I'm a quarterback coach. I have no idea what's going on right now. But I do know that virtual learning, right? When I look at my 4-year-old trying to do virtual preschool, like the dude doesn't do it, right? He just bounces around. Virtual install when we had to do it back in the spring, like our kids didn't understand. We were just happy that they weren't playing Xbox for a little bit, but that's really all you're going to get out of it. So I think, it is tougher right now as a young guy to learn a system and to not only learn the system, right, but to execute it. Because what we forgot, the most important part of OTAs is filming yourself doing it, right? Because you would go out there, they would get filmed, and then they would coach the tape later. Well, none of these guys had this year. So that's where, honestly, going back to your teaching, that's how these guys are great teachers, is because
they did it in an environment where they didn't even get to meet with the players. They had to do this.
And you guys had very few MAs. You had very few missed assignments when I was watching your tape. It wasn't like you had receivers busting routes. Like, that obviously was taught at a high level for these guys to get it. So, I tell you, for the young guys now, it's tough, man. And if the collective bargaining agreement goes the way a lot of people are saying, it's going to be even less reps in the preseason, which, to me, and I hate sounding like a back in my day or like a prick, but when you fight for less reps, I get why guys that are, in their 10th year want that, but it's not about you, right? It's about the dude who's trying to make the team. Like, let's be honest, if you're a 10-year vet, they're going to sit your ass half a training camp anyways to rest you. So, what are you sad that you have to go out there? Yeah. What are you sad you have to go out there and watch? Like, the more practice time, the better for these young guys. And I do, I hope that some of this stuff stays, or at least some of it becomes more like, hey, okay, we're going to get rid of OTAs, but the rookies are still going to come in. Because if they don't do that, that's a whole nother discussion on, did Carolina trade for Sam Darnold because they couldn't trade with Atlanta? Or did they trade for Sam Darnold because they thought we were going to be virtual this whole year and they didn't want to try to teach Trey Lance their offense virtually, right? There's some different thought processes behind the scenes of people saying, do I really want a rookie right now? Like, if I can't teach him anything? We saw that in Denver. In Denver, people are ready to run Drew Lock out of town. And quite frankly, the first 10 weeks of the season just honestly looked like training camp. Like, they had dudes busting left and right. So it's just a tough situation to be in for those young guys.
My final question that I'm gonna give, I know we've taken so much of your time, and we so good. Appreciate it, man. We love this. We do this every Tuesday. Our show goes for over 3 hours. We got people calling in because this is what we do. We dissect and we just keep going. This is what fans want, actually, instead of a surface level conversation. My question is one about an argument that's happened with Panther fans for the last year. There have been people who have been ardent Teddy Bridgewater defenders, and there have been more than half of us who have been very critical of Teddy's ceiling. And the idea is this: My question is ultimately this: Can you realistically build an NFL team with the idea that you have a guy who is just a decent player that isn't going to crash the car? We're going to build, everything else seems to have to be perfect to me for this to work. The defense has to be fantastic. The offensive line has to be great. You have to have all receivers that make plays when they're not plays, because you have a quarterback who is a Brad John, maybe not Brad John, who's the Dilfer. Dilfer is the example of it. Is that a realistic, like, for the people who continue to tell us that Teddy Bridgewater is not gotten a fair shake because he didn't have a good defense, because they were all rookies, because he didn't have an offensive line, and that we need to put tools around him and build and build and build? Is that realistic? What are your thoughts on that? Because we have a feeling like this is that the upside just isn't there, and it's not a knock on him entirely. Like, what he does good is good, right? It's like he doesn't turn the ball over. He calls the plays at the line. He does all of this, but the limitations put you at such a disadvantage in some ways. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think it's a great question, and it's what I think every NFL team wrestles with. What I tell you is you can win a Super Bowl with a guy like Teddy Bridgewater. You can't win it with his current price tag. So that's the discussion, right? Because Teddy Bridgewater is, by and large, an average to above average NFL quarterback. You can win with that if your team is elite. The issue is you can't pay somebody the amount of money that you guys are paying Teddy and be elite, right? I think, the Cowboys are going to be in an interesting spot, right? Because Dak Prescott's one of those guys that, man, you see flashes where he can carry a squad, but you also see some stuff where it's like, do I really want to pay him top dollar? You guys paid Teddy top dollar, right? If you pay someone top dollar, it's tough to win with them if they're not in the Aaron Rodgers category. Like, look at Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson's a great quarterback. They paid him and everybody else left, and Seattle hasn't really, they've won, but they're not really someone who you're like is going to win a Super Bowl. So that's where it's a tough conversation. And it's one of those things where there's a lot of guys in this league you can win with. Tannehill is a perfect example of it, but the price tag has to be right and the team has to be right. And then there are very few Aaron Rodgers left walking around on planet Earth where it's like, give the dude whatever and they'll be in the playoffs. That doesn't exist. You guys almost sold the farm for Deshaun Watson, who, like, I'm a huge Deshaun Watson fan from a talent perspective, but like, they still got their ass kicked every week. So I don't want to hear transcendent superstar if he got his ass kicked, right? Like, that's just, and a lot of people are like, well, QB wins don't matter. It's like, okay, that's like saying that a stock price doesn't matter to a CEO, right? Like, that's his job, to get the stock price higher. The same way an NFL quarterback's job is to win football games. So yeah. I don't know. I have a hard time with it, but I do think there's the argument to be had. And in Teddy's case, unfortunately, I just don't think – I think he can win in the NFL. I just don't think it's at the dollar that he's going to – that he'll command in the market. And that's unfortunately why he'll be stuck in this kind of never-ending cycle of being on a, decently bad to decently good team.
Is there anything to the idea, though, that could work if everything goes, even if you're even talking about contractually at this point, everything has to go right. But when you have a star, a superstar, you can potentially win from year to year when everything doesn't go perfectly.
Yeah, a superstar gets you into the conversation every year. Right. What I would tell you is the way things break, the perfect example of Teddy Bridgewater being able to make it to a Super Bowl in recent memory for me would be Jared Goff and Jimmy Garoppolo. Right. Both shook right because they were on their rookie contract and the team was good and they played at a good enough level to get their teams to the Super Bowl. Right. Unfortunately for both of them, Garoppolo ran into Patrick Mahomes, and then Goff ran into Tom Brady, right? Pretty decent guys. And that's the argument, right? Hey, but if you're a superstar, then do you just, kind of have your team there on the cusp every year? Yeah, probably. So I think that's where it's that conversation, man. It's the thing that every NFL organization needs to wrestle with. The thing that's hard is quarterback's just so noticeable, right? If your team that doesn't have a good quarterback, it's so noticeable that it drives your fan base so crazy that you pay a guy like Teddy. What are you guys paying him? Like $20 million?
20, yeah, it's not even a top, but it's starting money. It's legit start money.
$25 million.
The problem isn't even the amount; it's the longevity of the contract. That was the real problem. That it was 3 years, $64 million, where like 40 or something was guaranteed. He really got he robbed us. And Marty Herney sold us down the fucking river on that. All right, last questions for Tim Jenkins, guys. Who's got one?
I got one. I got it's all in the same category, but it's a two-parter. We have the draft coming up as the Carolina Panthers at the 8th pick. Right now, we have a lot of different decisions to make. Do we take a corner? Do we take a left tackle? There are some people even saying we still are in the market for some of those quarterbacks that may still be available when the 8th pick comes around. What is the pick that, as a Sam Darnold fan, would you say we need to do? And what is the one pick we cannot make if we are a Sam Darnold fan?
Oh, gosh. The pick you can't make is a quarterback at 8. Like, if you take a quarterback at 8, you basically just, it just doesn't make sense.
You traded 3 picks away for no reason.
It doesn't make sense. I wouldn't take a quarterback at 8. The kid that again, how realistic it is that he gets to you guys, for me, wouldn't be either what you mentioned. It'd be Pitts. If you added a tight end if you guys added a tight end to what you guys have, I mean, good God, how explosive your offense could be. And now you're talking about Pitts. Here's where my mind goes, and I'm a football geek, and I hope this makes sense to everybody. But when it's Christian McCaffrey and Pitts is your 11 personnel, when you get into 11, you force teams into either base or nickel, right? Nickel's really base, but you force them into base or nickel. Knowing that you could still get into 5 wide sets with 2 linebackers on the field, good God. Like, that's a wet dream for Joe Brady. Like, he wakes up in the middle of the night sweating and excited if he has Kyle Pitts. It's just like the stuff that you could do is insane. So, I mean, being an offensive guy and being like, X's and O's minded, I would love to see Pitts. Obviously, you guys are going to know better their need. I tell everybody, like, listen, I have no idea. I do all these breakdowns from whether I think the guy's good or not. Like, I don't Panthers need, but I do think knowing what you guys have on offense, if you added a tight end to the mix, left tackle or not, it doesn't matter.
I am an ardent opponent of drafting tight ends in the first round because we always hear these wonderful names that are going to be the next whatever. And really, Kittle and it's Kittle and Kelsey, and neither of these guys are drafted in the first round. But the one thing, though, is that some people are now, because the Mel Kipers or whatever, Mel Kiper or Mike Kiper, whatever his name is, there's so many mock drafts, they got to mix it up to stick out. And now they're kind of draft or mocking to the Panthers a wide receiver. And I'm an anti-tight end, but the idea is that Kyle Pitts, you can put him into this offense, and you're not taking away reps from DJ. You're not taking away reps from Robbie Anderson. It just is a plug-and-play offense at that plug-and-play moment. So that's an interesting answer, and the fans are going to go crazy. Cody, you got anything last to say before we say goodbye?
I just wanted to say, listen, you have a ton of fans in our chat room, man. Everyone's saying they love the insight that you brought tonight. We've even had a few people that have said they've gone to your channel and subscribed. So you've definitely made some fans here tonight. I think you've brought some great insight, and I think you've kind of reinforced a lot of the hope that Panther fans do have about Sam Darnold. You know, so many people were kind of ready to write him off, but when you look at the context and you look at the film, you see that there really is something there. And Panther fans are hopeful that we might have something, and you kind of bolstered those hopes. So you've been a great guest, man. I don't really have too many questions for you, but I'm a fan of your content, and as something of a film reviewer myself, I try and get better at quarterbacks and different coverages and screens, and looking at different plays and stuff. So I found your channel to be very informative and very helpful. So I love the content you're doing, man, and I appreciate you joining us tonight.
I appreciate you guys, man. It was a blast. And we got, I got 3 kiddos at home, so anytime I can get out of bath duty is a plus for me. So I appreciate you guys.
All right, Tim, tell them how they can find your work.
On Twitter, I'm at T Jenkins Elite, and if they have a quarterback in Houston, Phoenix, or Denver, we have locations there, and they can just find us on JenkinsElite.com. But you can search it, YouTube. It's All Things QB, and hopefully it helps watch the game. And I started doing all this by accident. I was just trying to put out some stuff, because I would tweet, hey, the Broncos just ran this play, and people were like, what the hell is that? So I started trying to put out breakdowns on what the plays were, and hopefully it just makes watching the game a little bit more fun, because this is like you guys know, man, it's the greatest game on planet Earth, and hopefully it makes it a little bit better. So I appreciate you guys, and let me know whenever you need me back. I'd love to hop back on.
Man, thank you so much. Check out Tim Jenkins, and you can find him with All Things QB on YouTube. Jenkins Elite. It's wonderful. We appreciate it, Tim. We will find out how you don't get copyright claims every time. That's what we want to know. Good God, every time we look at film, they go bing, bing, bing.
It's too small. So I think they let me slide.
Oh no, we're smaller. They don't let us slide.
No, I think he's talking about the segments that he puts his own arrows up. All right, that's Tim Jenkins.
I appreciate you guys. Thank you.
Have a good one. Go watch those kiddos. All right, guys, man. One of the best guests, I gotta say, arguably, that we've had on in a long, long time here.
Loved it.
We got
Fantastic.
a lot of information on quarterback Sam Darnold and insight into PJ Walker and different people. Let's go ahead, guys. Go ahead and smash the thumbs up button. Be a part of the show. Let's go ahead and jump into the cat calls.
So what are your thoughts on catcalling?
Yeah, it's pretty. You shouldn't do that to somebody.
And how did that make you feel?
Very uncomfortable.
So how do you think catcalling makes the person feel?
It feels good, like.
Who's that cat sitting in the back corner with his face buried in his nose? Who's that kid that can use
Tony, you Italian long hair mother. What's up? You know what to do. Smash the like button, subscriber Samuel, all that. CK here for your job. You know what it is. So, it's your boy Blake B. I feel like I haven't been tagging my calls. So, Tony, this is call number 1. Okay, okay. I was watching the Sam Darnold presser, and homeboy uses the filler phrase, more than Tony references Teddy's dick. So that's what I took from that interview. He is as boring to listen to as watching paint dry.
I agree. You're right.
But hey, here's what I'm thinking.
So right.
Yes. Yeah. What's up, Chuck, by the way? Shout out to Chuck from Elizabeth City. Yup, what's up? Okay, so here's what I'm thinking. For next week's show, we need a C3 Carolina Panthers podcast official mock draft.
Ooh.
I mean, not just something, hey, I'll take this at number 8, or this is what we're going to do. I want an official
Cody
Carolina
does this.
Panthers mock draft from you boys. I mean,
Let me
you
do
give
it.
us homework
It's like me
sometimes.
filling out the
There's a hill I'm
NCAA
talking
bracket.
about, or a shirt that I'm talking about making. So for next week, I can have that ready. If you boys can have a official mock draft ready. And Tony, you know what I'm talking about. You know what shirt I'm talking about. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Let's do this thing. Keep pounding. Around stuff.
Is it around stuff?
Can you hook us up with the official mock draft, Cody?
Yeah, man, I did one on one of
Draft
those
Tech.
film reviews I did.
Next week, the
online.
pressure's on. The pressure's on. You bring it, and then we'll poke holes in it.
I'm ready, man. By the way, I was hit up by Rashad from the Panther Nation podcast that they're gonna do a mock draft on Sunday, and he invited me to come on and be a part of a Panther roundtable there too. So that ought to be fun, and we'll see about getting those guys over here on this channel too, and doing some more crossover Panthers content. So
Yeah,
we can definitely do some more draft stuff.
Yeah, I think I like that idea. And I'm glad you're going to be over there with them. I think we need to, for whatever reason, Panthers Podcast Nation is so like it feels like they're just battling one another as opposed to like, let's bring each other up, man. Let's give people as much content as they can. And I like that you're going over there to help them out, man.
Yep.
All right, so I'm gonna shout out to It's Panther Blue on YouTube. He tweeted this today, and I'm gonna go ahead and put it out there for the listeners. We are doing it on draft night, Thursday, the 29th, I believe it is. We are going to be hosting our 9th. I think this is our 9th, 8th or 9th. We started with the first one we ever did was Kelvin Benjamin. So whatever 2014, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. This is our 8th live draft show. Where on opening night, we watched the first round. We cycle in guests about we're going to have Scott Mason on right during the New York Jets pick. We're going to be reacting to the picks and all the picks going on and commentating it. At It's Panther Blue said, what do you guys think of a fun contest for draft night where we all submit our predictions for the top 10 picks? We will do this. So what I need you guys to do is all the listeners, you're listening on the iTunes, TuneIn, Stitcher, you're listening to the podcast later, you're watching in the Facebook or Periscope or Twitter or YouTube right now. You've got to message me the first 10 picks, and the person who gets the most will get a prize from me. I'll pull out the prize bag. Now, the question is, how are you going to message me? That's a big deal here because I got to keep up with all of it. I want to say this is I think it would be great if what you did is you went into Discord and you dropped a message in there where you put your 10 picks.
What we can do is we can create a channel for this contest. Like we can say, and then that way it's not just randomly throughout that entire, like you only people that are going in there is to post their 10 picks, and then it makes it just easy as pie. The only issue with that is copycats, right? So there is the issue of do I want
the same picks? Oh yeah, if you got the same 10 picks,
yeah.
Well, then what we'll do is this copycats. Then what we'll do is we then goes name in a hat. So is that if there are 10 people that have 7 correct picks, we'll go name in the hat for the prize. And if there's that many people, I might even give out more than one prize too. I'm not going to guarantee everybody gets something, but I got a closet full of t-shirts and some cam wows and some different things. We'll make sure everybody gets hooked up somehow. So right now, the official way to do it is there's going to be 2 ways. We're going to set up a Discord channel that'll be ready next week. We'll give the link out and all the show notes and things like that coming up. You can do that, or you can email me at carolinacatchronicles@gmail.com. Those are the 2 ways I'm going to accept it. We'll talk after the show a little bit more if we're going to expand that a bit. But I got to just be able to keep up with it. And then the show is wild. The draft show is so fun and so awesome. But at the same time, it's a ton of crazy work on me. and I almost missed the whole draft as I talk and host and bring in guests. Thank God Cody can produce now a lot. Let's go to the next call and cover me for a second as well, fellas.
What up, Panther Nation? Jason from Colorado. I want to know if anybody can do anything to make this draft get here faster, because all this speculation got me going crazy. But it seems like
Warzone.
It seems to be narrowing down a little bit for Carolina, at least. You know, we seem to have checked just about every box. We got AJ Bouye in a cornerback. I saw we picked up a few unnamed defensive tackles, but I was thinking that a talented 3-tech would be an excellent addition for us. I don't know if we picked that up, but we certainly got some bodies in there that give us a nice rotation. I'm really looking forward to the draft. I feel like it's got to be an offensive tackle, man. Panay Sewell would look so good in the black and blue, and I can't wait to see it happen. I was looking over the roster, and I realized that we also have basically another rookie from last season that I'm excited to see play, and that's Jordan Mack from West Virginia. He opted out for COVID, but I remember when we drafted him, a bunch of West Virginia fans were coming in and saying that guy was going to be a real leader on the defense. And from watching like highlight reels and stuff, guy seems like a real thumper, and he's fast. His sideline speed is great. He's able to close on and make tackles, and he hits with ferocity. So I'm looking forward to. I'm really feeling good about this next season. I think it's going to be fun to watch. I feel like we're going to be in a lot of these games, and I feel like our coaching staff's going to find a way to win it. So.
Yeah, great call, man. He's basically talking about the well-roundedness of our defense and what we were able to do in free agency, and then he was talking about a player on our team that opted out for COVID, defensive tackle, I think.
Christian Miller, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah. Christian Miller. Defensive end, he's a linebacker. And, yeah, he's someone that I really liked coming out of Alabama. Listen, I think our defense is really going to take a step forward this year.
Yeah.
I really do think so. I mean, when you look at our linebackers now upgrading with Perryman and Hassan Reddick, I feel like if Derek Brown takes another step forward this year and really becomes that monster in the middle for us, dude, our linebackers are going to be able to play so fast. We're going to be able to put Brian Burns on some one-on-one matchups on the edge, let him get out in space and just get to the back foot of the offensive tackle and chase the quarterback. So I'm excited about the prospects of our defense this year.
Yep. All right. Next call.
What's up, gang? This is KB Van, Cody's favorite troll. I come in peace. I just wanted to say good job on the All-22 film study. I'm about halfway through it now.
What up, Carl?
And you're still playing the Rams. You got so I wanted to make a comment about 2 plays early on in the film study where you said Sam Darnold had missed the throw bad. And I wanted to say, if you go back and look at that, one was a drag route. I can't remember what the other route was, but they were, I think the plays were back to back. Anyway, if you look, you'll see that the drag route, he's trying to hit the drag route over the middle, but he doesn't have the passing lane. The pressure is in his face, so he has to sidestep it and move up. By then, he's not open. And that was sort of the same issue with the other play that I'm talking about. And so my point is, I guess, is that these guys have got to have passing lanes. They've got to trust their coverage. They've got to trust their protection. And when you see him get antsy, and this is for all quarterbacks, whether you that was for Teddy Bridgewater, Cam Newton, anybody. They've got to have their throwing lanes. Now, I just got finished watching the one pass where he threw an absolute dot, and I think it was another drag route, and he threw it almost where it had to be, and nobody. I mean, it was probably a MVP throw. But if you go back and look at that play, you'll see that he has a throwing lane there, and so the guy is going to be if the Jets haven't ruined this guy, and he hadn't, when they say seeing ghosts and stuff like that, that means he don't protect his coach. He don't trust his protection, and that's when you start making bad plays and bad throws and second guessing yourself and stuff. But when he feels like he trusts his protection at least enough, and he ain't got a lot of time to throw. I mean, he's got quick feet in the pocket. He evades pressure very well, but his line is just terrible. And he actually has decent weapons. I think it's Demaryius Thomas, Crowder, Le'Veon Bell. I don't know. Is Robbie Anderson in this? I don't think he is. But
it was. I don't think it was
his
Demaryius
weapons aren't
Thomas.
bad, but his
Well,
line
first
is
of all,
bad.
he's
His
been a
coaching
bum
is
for a
bad.
while.
His defense is shit. All that. So if we can get this guy and we can fix whatever bad.
It was somebody, and it's not this guy, but it was someone similar to him. It's like Terrell Pryor or something that they had. No, it was the dude that was drafted by the Ravens so high. Perryman. That's who it was last year, if he's talking about that. So what's up? Keep pounding TV in the house. Big Cat. Put your paws up.
What's up, Big Cat? He was talking specifically about the film room that I did. And listen, Carl, I 100% agree with you, man. A lot of the big time plays that Sam did make in that film review that I put up, it was after the offensive line had already been disintegrated, and Sam had to roll out and try and make plays on the run and make something happen. And that's really what Sam had to do most of the time in that offense. That offensive line did him no favors. So, yeah, I 100% agree with Carl. As weird as that is to say, Carl. But, yeah, man, whenever he has some time to sit back and survey the football field and let him make good decisions, yeah, I think Sam Darnold's going to be fine. I think he's going to get on rhythm. And I honestly think Joe Brady and our quarterback coach, Sean Ryan, are going to do wonders for Sam Darnold. And I really do think they're going to be able to elevate his talent to the next level.
100. And well, that's it. I don't got anything else to say. I've already said it. Next call.
But anyway, if we can get us a good center, a good left tackle, and if we can get
a good center,
good tight end, another running back. Maybe pick Giovanni Bernard up in free agency.
Nah, he went to go get his ring.
Get this guy some good protection in this draft. Then I think what you're going to see is a blessing in disguise when it comes to not having a higher pick. Because to be honest with you, I'm not very high like you guys are on Fields and Lance. I'm not saying that can't be great, but I think there's just too much to be yet to be determined about those guys that pick so high. And I think this is a blessing in disguise. The 8th pick is going to be fine. We should probably even trade back if somebody like Sewell doesn't fall to us. But anyway, enjoyed it.
Appreciate it, Carl, my man. And look, no matter how many people. I will say this is, look, I've defended Carl the whole time. I said, this dude's good. I like him. You know what I'm saying? He's my dude. I like him. That one day you were going after that girl for being fat was way too much. I mean, he was just fat. I just kept going fatty. I was like, gosh, come on,
bro,
Carl,
Twitter's
man.
a wild place, man. Dude,
yeah, I don't even think that, I didn't.
Dude, Twitter invokes the worst in you, man. I'm telling you.
Reddit invokes the worst in people. Reddit. All right, so how about this? Is it just, and I'll move on from this. Reddit is the place where assholes congregate. So, like, Carl, maybe check that one out. I follow, because I do some woodworking, some carpentry, some different stuff on the side, or just for fun. And I follow this woodworking Reddit thread. I never post. I just look at this stuff. So somebody said my uncle made this dresser that's inspired by the Mad Hatter. It's a custom-made dresser that had a split in it where the drawers all functioned. It was dope as shit. And the second comment was, this will probably get removed because you didn't make it. Like that's like one of the rules in the thread is that you have to make it. And I was like, it's the dude's fucking uncle. A, and B, like, what if he would have just sanded one little bit? It's just like the place where assholes go.
Yeah.
They're like they're just, it was like, another person was like, somebody else has done this, so it'd probably get removed. I was like, gosh, this is like the awesomest thing. Like, if you did this, if anybody did this, it would be the coolest shit ever. And the first thing these assholes come out and like, wow, we're gonna remove it. Reddit, man. Gosh. And if anybody, how about this? If y'all are Reddit people, why don't you post this damn podcast in the Reddit thread? How about that? Because I've been doing this podcast for 8 years and I look at the Panthers Reddit all the time. I ain't ever seen nothing from this up here. Somebody go share our shit. Help us out, folks.
By the way, Carl says she came after him first. So
I don't care, man. It's just like,
look, let me defend my man, Carl.
That was Adeline. He was Adeline.
Let me defend the man I fight with all the time on Twitter. Dude, sometimes people talk a bunch of shit on Twitter, and it's who can hit harder and who can go lower. So shout out.
Oh, the opposite of Michelle Obama, right?
Yeah,
when they go low, we go high. No,
Michelle
when you're on Twitter, you go. All right, next go.
When they go low, you hit them with an uppercut from the bowels of hell, dude.
Oh, no wonder y'all argues back and forth so much. All right, let's go.
Hey guys, Chad down here in Charleston. Curious your thoughts on. I think looking at the signings we've made now in the last week, with of course the Darnold trade at quarterback, and then signing AJ Bouye at cornerback, which is a former Pro Bowler, I think in 2018 or 2019, has a lot of potential. We went out and got Micah Simon at wide receiver, David Moore at wide receiver, Dan Arnold at tight end. We've covered a lot of our weaknesses through free agency, even though maybe they're not all Pro Bowl type guys. We've filled in a lot of gaps, which I think is pointing to, we're aiming for a tackle. Definitely aiming for a tackle at number 8. I think we'll stay put and take one. Question I had was if Cody or one of you guys would do a comparison of Slater and Sewell, and which one you guys have rated higher, which one you would prefer. Kind of pros and cons of each guy. I think we may have the option of both, but definitely one of them will fall to us. So just curious what you guys' thoughts on that.
Yeah, so I've done 2 film reviews on both of these players. And Tony, you were with me for the Penei Sewell film. And so listen, I still have to put out my top 50 players, which I'm working on that. I'm almost done with that. And I'm going to put out my top 100 players before the draft. And I think I'm probably going to reveal my top 50 on one of the live streams I do. But I'll go ahead and give you a sneak peek, and I'll say this. Penei Sewell has been talked up as the number 1 offensive tackle in this year's draft class. And I think any other year that would be true. But Rashawn Slater, I'm telling you, is 100% as advertised. That man played in the Big Ten against better edge rushing competition, and frankly has better footwork than Penei Sewell, in my opinion, and he has better hand placement. Penei Sewell was so strong that even in the moments when his technique would falter, he's such a mammoth of a human being, and he's so physically dominant that you still barely couldn't even move him off of his spot. In the NFL, there's not going to be that much room. The margin of error is going to be a lot tighter. So a player like Penei Sewell, I genuinely do believe is a more NFL-ready starter right now. He had a better 40 time. He put up a few extra reps on the bench press. He has graded like a true dominant left tackle prospect. Everyone wants to bang on on Rashawn Slater rather for his arm length. And listen, I said this during my film review. If I don't see his arm length as a problem in his film. If I see defenders using a long arm to get his hands inside his chest and bully him around, yeah, then it's a problem, and I would worry about it, and I would want to move him inside at the next level. But that was never a problem with him. You never saw him get beat inside. You never saw an opponent use his length on Rashawn Slater and bully him around. Rashawn Slater is a mammoth of an offensive tackle. I mean, you really can't go wrong with either of them. Maybe you could make the argument that Penei Sewell, even though he's a little more raw, might potentially have a higher upside. But even still, I don't see how much higher it could be over Slater. In my mind, that's a long way of saying Rashawn Slater deserves to be the number one tackle in this year's class. And on my board, I will have him ranked a little bit higher than Penei.
Wow. Have you seen this?
I have.
School. Yeah, let's look at watch this.
shit,
Is
man.
for people listening just to the audio. This is a video from Penei Sewell in high school, and they send basically like Greg, the bat daddy, to try to rush the quarterback here. And this big guy, probably a little hold right there, and then he puts a, what is that called in wrestling, MMA wrestling, like a Kiri
Choke
bomb?
slam.
Or
No, that's a choke slam right there. That's WWE shit, man.
I felt like it was like what you said the other day, that guy you were talking about. You listed a fight move on Twitter the other day, like a Kiri something.
Kimura. Yeah, no,
that's what
that's a
it looks
different
like.
thing.
No?
No, that's a different
Okay.
thing. No, that's just that's an Andre the Giant choke slam, man.
That poor kid.
That's what that is.
All right.
Hey, hold on. I'm gonna have to dip out a
Okay.
little bit early tonight, but I did want to share an ice up that I think everyone will enjoy and think is kind of funny. I saw this video floating around Twitter, and it just made me laugh so much, and it's so indicative of who we know this man to be. Teddy Bridgewater was out somewhere. I don't know what he was doing, but the man is in street clothes. He's out just on some practice field somewhere, and he's not doing anything particular. But the man still has 2 gloves on. For no reason at all, the man is still wearing 2 gloves. And then, if you notice, on this little nothing dump off pass, Teddy Bridgewater underthrows the football to this little kid right here, man. And then to top it
And
all
then he
off,
can't catch it.
and
Then
then
he
to
can't
top
catch
it all off with those super stucco gloves that he has on his hands, my man can't even bring the ball down.
It's like watching him hit a baseball, bro. It's
Dude,
bad.
this is vintage Teddy Bridgewater, man. Dude, this guy shows us his physical potential all the time. I know I'm piling on at this point in time, but come on, man. That's just embarrassing, dude. To Teddy Bridgewater, ice up, son.
All right. Thanks, Cody, for hanging out as long as you did, and
Yeah,
we'll
man.
see you soon. We'll see you soon, man.
For sure. Peace
Follow
out,
Cody
Panthers.
Lashney. He's got the film rooms coming out. He's got his draft tech stuff. So, and next week he's going
Tomorrow
to be
on
bringing us
Draft
his
Tech.
official mock. So
Yep.
check out Cody. All right, let's go to the next call.
All right, later, boys.
What's
Peace,
good,
man.
fellas? It's Corey calling in again, man. I wanted to call in to kind of touch on this, like, Kirk Cousins versus Matt Ryan debate that y'all happened like the last couple of weeks. I actually made a touch on it last week, but the Sam Darnold news kind of overtook everything. That shit kind of didn't cross my mind. But you know, just to get my take on it, man, Cody, you always come with the good takes, man, and you're like probably the most knowledgeable just about studying football on the show, but you're wrong here, bro. Like you're just flat out wrong when it comes to Kirk Cousins and Matt Ryan. Not like they're just different levels, man. And you kind of mentioned the Matt Ryan having all these weapons and Julio Jones and Calvin Ridley, and then what else? Like it stopped. Like Calvin Ridley, he's been in the league like 4 years.
Matt Ryan's been in the league like what, like 12,
Roddy
13.
White.
He's had Julio most of his career. Obviously, Julio's one of the best in the league, but like, it's not like Matt Ryan's just been blessed with having this like incredible amount of talent that
Tony Gonzalez, Roddy White
has had. Dalvin.
There was
Brooks,
another receiver
okay,
there too with
Adam
Roddy.
Thielen and Stephon Diggs. Like Kirk Cousins has been blessed, bro, and he's never been more than an eyed-ass quarterback. Like he's made a couple Pro Bowls, maybe as like an alternate, but when has Kirk Cousins ever struck fear in anybody, right? And like Matt Ryan is not, you know, some world beater either, but most of his career, Matt Ryan has been a good to great. For 1 year, he was an elite quarterback. Like I'm not gonna sit here and, you know, stroke his dick, but Matt Ryan is a good quarterback. He's been a good quarterback for a long ass time. Been to the Super Bowl, got an MVP. He can make a lot of good ass throws. So I mean, I just really feel like it's levels when it comes to Kirk Cousins and Matt Ryan, and Kirk Cousins is not on that. When has Kirk Cousins ever been considered great? When has he ever been considered to be anything close to an MVP candidate? And he's had 3 Pro Bowlers, like 3 of the best.
I appreciate the call, man, and he's right, and that's what we fought. The only thing he's not right about is Cody being the most knowledgeable. Come on now, what he know?
Don't let his head get any bigger.
All right, next call, which I think might be part 2.
What's up, y'all? Corey calling in. Second half of my call, I was kind of wrapping up my little rant about Cam, but it's really like no secret that Cam had his inconsistencies as a thrower. Like we all know that, we all saw it.
Yeah.
And it's not just because Carolina did a shitty job putting weapons around him, which, you know, we all know that they did. They could have done a way better job getting them elite receivers. By the time they did get some elite receivers, he was already, you know, threw his shoulder out and was missing all these games. But, you know, that's neither here nor there. And maybe it's a little bit too much to ask because, you know, if Cam was a consistently accurate thrower, he'd be a top 10 quarterback of all time, at least in my opinion, without a doubt, just because of his size, his athleticism, and what he can do throwing the ball. If his consistency was there, then, you know, he'd be a fucking monster, unstoppable, even more so than he was. But, you know, TK, you were talking about it. It's when it comes to just purely throwing the ball, Matt Ryan is better than Cam Newton was now, or is. And, you know, obviously Cam can make throws that Matt can't, Cody, to your point, because he just has that arm talent, he has that strength, he can throw it into tight windows, but he just had too many of those opportunities where it was just like gimmies, where I feel like shit slipped out of his hands. And this is coming from the biggest Cam Newton fan you're ever going to meet in your life. So, no, I'm not saying that Matt Ryan is better than Cam Newton. I want Cam Newton on my team 10 times out of 10, 365 days out of the week over anybody. But if we're talking about strictly throwing the ball, like, come on, y'all, we got to take our Panthers tinted shades off and just call it is what it is. But, you know, obviously, y'all fuck with the podcast. Love it. Keep doing what you're doing, man. Keep pounding, y'all.
Man, great calls tonight, and I agree. I agree, and I think that is an unpopular opinion to give any Matt Ryan compliments right on this period. But I think there's a lot of merit to what your point, CK, when this discussion kind of started. The whole Kirk Cousins thing was bizarre. That was like that's Cody trolling us, I think. But I don't know. No, but he even the whole I'm interested in the Jimmy Garoppolo Teddy Bridgewater comparison. Is that might win? That was a little closer. It was a lot closer actually. But he's right, and you're right. He brought up some great points. All right, next call.
Hey guys, this is Chuck from Elizabeth City calling. Kind of wanted to look at, just kind of express my own opinion and my own feelings, and I'm sure there's a lot of Panther fans that agree with me, and maybe not 100%, but for the most part, I think a lot of Panther fans kind of in the same range, and that's addressing the quarterback situation.
Yeah.
I think we've kind of floated in an area the last couple of years where we do not have that star quarterback, and it's kind of like we're chasing something that we can't catch. No matter how good this coaching staff and having a rich owner, having a great defense, everybody in the NFL looks at a team. If you have an A1 quarterback, you've got something. We can look at the history of the New Orleans Saints, and for the most part, it sucks. But when they got Drew Brees and they won a Super Bowl with him, even when he was aging, he was the face of the franchise. And that's going to be hard for them to replace. But I'm really looking at us. Being a young franchise, we're kind of like a baby, and we've had milk our whole life.
Mm-hmm.
Even when we had Jake Delhomme, we had Winky, Burline, Kerry Collins, all these guys. Cam Newton was our first taste of a Pepsi or a Coke. At the Sugar Rush, and he gave us excitement. We were jolting. We were excited. We were sticking our chest out. We were running around. You know, Steve Smith will always be my favorite Carolina Panther. But Cam Newton is the best player that we've ever drafted or had. And I think even when Cam was going downhill, we always held out thinking he was going to get better. His throwing mechanics were going to get better. His shoulder was going to get better. We were going to improve around him. And we always held our breath thinking, man, he showed that flash of brilliance and took a team on his back to the Super Bowl. We always felt that we were going to have him longer than we did. And once we got rid of him, it broke our hearts. We knew he was hurting. Bridgewater wasn't the answer. Sam Darnold's probably not the answer. I think all we're doing is hoping for improvement over Bridgewater with Sam Darnold. And we wanted, Deshaun Watson, and we're hoping to get one of these top 3 or 4 quarterbacks because we're trying to get that lightning in the bottle we have with Cam Newton. In fact, we're going back to drinking milk as a baby again. We want that taste of Coke. And that's why it's so hard to get over Cam Newton, because of what we did have with him and what could have been. Thanks.
I like it, Chuck, except for the I was about to make a cocaine joke. We don't need milk, we don't need Coke, we need cocaine at the quarterback. All right, next call.
Yo, guys, it's Nick. So, figured you guys would want to hear something funny. So, as you guys know, live up here in Mass, Patriots Nation, can't get around it, nothing I can do about it. Guy at work, my apprentice, mind you, I have been messing with him for the last, week and a half, 2 weeks. Just being like, oh yeah, Teddy Bridgewater is going to get traded to the Pats. And like 3 days after I started saying it, he came into work. He's like, I kind of want it to happen. Okay, now mind you, when he said this to me, I started dying laughing. Okay? Because who in their right mind wants Teddy Bridgewater? The very next day, they start talking about it on Sports Talk or whatever podcast it is that he's listening to, how Teddy Bridgewater would be a great fit up in New England. Guys, Cam would absolutely destroy him. I would love to see what would happen with Cam and Teddy Bridgewater on the same team. Like, that would be absolutely hilarious. But the fact that this dude actually said, oh yeah, I want Teddy Bridgewater. What is wrong with you? So yeah, basically for the last week, I've been calling him Teddy Bridgewater. And not only me, but basically everyone who we work with has been calling him Teddy Bridgewater. So figured you guys would get a kick out of that. Love the show, guys. Keep going.
Thanks, Nick, man. We appreciate it. Next call.
Hey guys, it's Nick again. So you guys have been putting out a lot of content. Love it. Watched it, every bit of it. It's awesome. Okay. It's awesome that you guys are putting out content on guys that we could get, that sort of deal. Now, I gotta say, we got quite a few people calling in who have called in, especially over the last 6 months, saying, hey, let's throw Will Greer in there when we're already having a losing season. Let's throw PJ Walker in, that sort of deal. We have these 2 other quarterbacks on our roster who we don't really have very much tape on. Do you guys think it would be at all possible to do any sort of breakdown of Will Greer or PJ Walker? I mean, I know there's quite a few guys other than myself who have said, hey, we should run with PJ. Let's see what we got in him, that sort of deal. Okay, maybe there's some tape out there that you guys have seen that shows that he's not worth running with. I mean, I get it. The Lions game, He had 2 interceptions. I mean, that is kind of a big deal. But at the same time, the dude hasn't really practiced too much with the starters. Last year, Teddy Bridgewater was our guy just because of the amount of money that we paid him, and because the organization was ashamed to admit that they had fucked up. But, you guys have put out quite a bit of college tape on some of the other quarterbacks in the draft. What do you guys think about doing some tape on 2 of the quarterbacks on our roster that we haven't really seen play all that much?
I'll float that.
Keep
I appreciate it. I'm going to float the idea to Cody Lashney. I gave him my password to get into the NFL All 22, which includes the preseason games. So it's be a small sample set, but something to work, be interested in. Might be interesting to get a Tim Jenkins live film breakdown of PJ Walker's 2 appearances. That would be fun. Maybe see if we can work something like that. I think you're onto something. All right, next call. Me by myself here. Me, myself, and Blake Bettis, hopefully.
Panthers podcast.
Nope, not Blake Bettis.
Nah,
it's coming, man.
Blake B again. What
see, no, whoa. No, my man. He did it. This is, you got, when you fool me once, shame on you. A fool man can't get fooled again. Well, I just got fooled again. Here it goes.
Panthers podcast. G. Cavassier. Nah, I'm just kidding. This is Blake B again. What up? Gotcha. So, again, listening to Sam Darnold's presser earlier today, he was talking about all these players he was looking forward to playing with, and he's talking about throwing to Arnold and the new Moore and all these other people. I was like, good Lord, who are these people? Like, I know some of these acquisitions, but I was like, what is going on? So I went on the Panthers app and looked, and they had this new jersey number, like official jersey number, and you could clearly tell some of those mugs are photoshopped. Go look on the Panthers app or the Panthers website and look at the official jersey pictures. It looks like some of them were just like put out on Paint, Microsoft Paint, posted on existing pictures of other players. It's crazy. But what really stood out to me is we have signed 17 free agents in this offseason. And I was like, good Lord, I don't know what a typical offseason holds for a team, but 17 acquisitions sounds like a lot. I don't think that's going to be on par for most teams. But the thing I want to point out here is, who would you guys still like to see us bring in? If any big names, if anything to fill gaps in the roster that we have of positional value to set up our draft, who would you like to see us bring in? Or do you want to wait till the draft and see what we still need to address to see how the board falls to us? Just kind of curious what you guys think. Mr. Personality there, Sam Darnold. I'm teetering on the fence back and forth. I watched Cody's film review, which had some promise. But, I mean, I like to see him in a new scheme. I'm trying to be optimistic. I'm not super excited, but we'll see what happens. So that concludes my call.
Great question, Blake. I told you I wouldn't miss the call, and I bet you there's another one in the hole still. So this goes back to the beginning point that I made earlier with the Scott Fitterer plan, right, of filling the roster to then go into the draft. I'm trying to think of where the weaknesses lie on this roster at this moment when it comes to, we've done quarterback, we've addressed offensive line and free agency, we've moved to the defense with Reddick and Perryman and the Boulier with the secondary, and the Arnold dude, the Dan Arnold at tight end helps a lot. I just, I'm starting to wonder at this point. I know there are a dime a dozen, but I got a dime and we need to find one. I think maybe backup running back is something that this team needs to start thinking about, or a second running back. Who are they going to trot out there? And then one is you got to plan in contingency in case Christian McCaffrey gets hurt. I don't think he will. I don't think he's injury prone. I think he's super durable at this point. We've seen that into his career. I think they protected him last year. Losing Mike Davis to the Atlanta Falcons, however, leaves just question marks. And yes, we can just fill that in. Practice squad guys, draft guys. Think of what we had with Jordan Scarlett, Cameron Artis-Payne, late in dudes. But if we were going to continue with the model of Scott Fitterer, where we're going to have a team no matter what when we go into the draft, that's where I'm starting to think at that point is that running back might be something. That's the one position group that hasn't been thought about, addressed at this point going forward, other than a restructure. Good call, Blake B. You fooled me. Fooled me once. Shame on you. Fooled me twice. Can't get fooled again, but I did. All right, next call.
This is a short one. Mel Kiper is as big a moron as David Newton. Dissect that.
So J-Dub says Cannon Smith Bonifon. It's not a must, but would be nice. Who are these people? I know Bonifon, but is he officially on the roster? Number one is a question. Is he there? I don't know the other guys. The Cannon. All right. Is it not Nick Cannon? That's got to be like a NSYNC person or something. But maybe he played a game. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't even know those dudes, right? So yeah, you're right. It's not a must. It's they are. Who are they? Bonifon though. Bonifon has some promise. I like him, but the squad don't really care about him. So anyway, here we go. Next call.
Hey, this is Kevin from Charleston. I got a question for y'all. So we had Superman Cam, right? Then we went from that to, Teddy Two Gloves or Teddy Checkdown or, all the other fucking stupid nicknames we gave him. My question to y'all is, what is Sam Darnold's nickname going to be for us this year? What are we going to nickname him? Because right now, I just have him as the Daywalker. So let me get your thoughts on that and, keep pounding. Peace.
Hold on. I was trying to follow. What did he say? Oh no.
Hey, this is Kevin from Charleston. I got a question for y'all. So we had Superman Cam, right? Then we went from that to
Big DT, Big
Teddy
DT.
Two Gloves or Teddy Checkdown or all
Big
the other
D.
fucking stupid nicknames we gave him. My question to y'all is, what is Sam Darnold's nickname going to be?
Oh, what is Sam Darnold's nickname? Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold. What? I just played the short one. It was this one.
This is a short one. Mel Kiper is as big a moron as David Newton. Dissect that.
All right. What will be Sam Darnold's nickname? Darnold. I think we should call him something to the effect of, what did Cody call him? Not quiet. Something. What means a good boy. He's a good boy. He's a good press conference. Wins the press conference, doesn't win the game. That's my title. All right, next call.
Hey, what's going on, guys? This is Nasty Nate from Harrisburg. I think the draft's going to go Trevor Lawrence, Zach Wilson, Justin Fields, Trey Lance, then either Kyle Pitts or the LSU wide receiver, and then hopefully Sewell or Rashawn Slater drop to us. I don't know why I have a feeling that we're going to get Devontae Smith from Alabama, or we get a cornerback. That's just my thoughts. You guys are all studs, and keep it easy. God bless. Harrisburg signing out.
All right, David Screws wins. Sam Darnold's nickname is, or tag phrase, I ain't afraid of no ghosts. That's awesome, dude. That needs to be a t-shirt. That needs to be a t-shirt. What does GEQ bus mean? Oh, is that like GQ bus? Maybe, I don't know. All right, I think this is last call of the night. It's just me by myself with you guys. 67 you have in the chat. Appreciate your night, your time, your insight, your contribution. Don't forget we're on Discord, right? Is that those guys are holding it down. I've been busy the last 3 days. I've actually haven't been involved a ton with anything, even the internet. Cut down 4 trees in my yard, like a big one today, like 2 big ones, but a decent sized one today. So I've been working my ass off, getting ready and this and that. Got all this stuff and family. So I haven't been, but people are holding it down. I peek in there in the Discord over the last 2 days. I missed time. People holding it up. So you get in the Discord, you smash the thumbs up button, you subscribe to the channel, you be a part of the conversation. Call in at 252-228-5098. We want to hear from you. We're trying to build a community. It's not about me telling you about football. That's why I brought in Tim Jenkins, right? Is that I'm here a commentator about, I'm a fan commentator, man. I'm going to say, screw this motherfucker. I hate Tahir Whitehead, tired ass Whitehead, right? And I love this dude. And Teddy Bridgewater, like, that's what I get to be. I'm not a journalist. I'm a fan. And you guys make this show happen. Thank you for your support. Last call.
Tony. You know who it is.
Uh-oh.
It's your boy, Josh from Met. I know I'm calling a little late. Hopefully you can work me into this fucking
God, I've been fooled.
Week's episode here. This week's installment, if you will. But I wanted to take the time to gather all my thoughts on this fucking Sam Darnold deal. All, you know, then we got a couple players we signed like a couple hours ago. And we got all the draft shenanigans because, you know, everybody's pants are getting fucking itchy with the fucking pre-draft crotch cricket. You know, and before we picked up Darnold, I was very much one of the in the camp of we need to get a QB, we need to get a QB, we need to get a QB. And now, I mean, I guess if one falls to us, I wouldn't be upset if we grabbed one, as long as it ain't Mac Jones. But I'd much rather see us go left tackle, you know. So if a QB falls to us and Sewell and Slater are on the board, or one or the other, we have a chance to drop back like 2 spots or whatever, and you know, get some second, first round capital this year, next year, whatever. I'd be inclined to move for that. But as far as Darnold, being living here in Massachusetts, you know, I see a lot of Patriots games just because the nature of the beast. They're on the TV, you know, here on the regular. I like the move. What makes me nervous is that game against the Pats 2 years ago now, or almost 2 years ago now, where, you know, I'm seeing ghosts and this and that. And I mean, I get it. It's Bill Belichick defense, blah, blah, blah. But, man, that is about the only thing that makes me nervous is how can this kid perform under pressure? I get it. He's young, and he's shown some flashes. And I don't think we gave up too much anyway for him. But that's really my only concern with him is how he's handled pressure. It hasn't been great. So, yeah, I mean, that's really it. Is I think we got to go left tackle in round 1. I mean, I get it. Ah, shit, I'm out of time. But, yeah, tackle round 1, Josh from Mass.
All right, Josh, Nick, both of the guys from Massachusetts. There was somebody in the chat room earlier from Germany, people all around the world following the Carolina Panthers and doing it on the C3 Panthers podcast. We got one last segment. It's the Ice Up pick of the week. And now it's going to be short because it is just my pick. And so here's the thing is each and every week I come up with an Ice Up pick and then I do the intro to the Ice Up moment just like that. And then I forget what my Ice Up pick is right in the moment of that I say that. So I had I got it. See? And I do this every week. Every week I go this, and I do this all the time. You hear me start talking. I'm just the whole time I'm trying to talk, trying to think of what I just forgot. My ice up pick, I mean, the list is long and undistinguished at this point. You could go from COVID. I'm a COVID vaccine. I got a COVID vaccine. I've been to Italy. I've been to Key West. I've done all this. I've been probably too cavalier during the COVID time. And then I got my shot. Shoot me up. Shoot me up. I want to get this life back to where I can go in a store and not wear a damn mask. But then I guess I could ice up the fact that COVID vaccines only last for like 2 minutes. And then is that worthy of calling a vaccine? And then somebody would be like, well, you don't know how vaccines work and this and that. But no, I'm going a different direction. I'm icing up going back to work. Now, I've worked the whole time during COVID. I've been blessed to have a job that we get to work remotely and from home. Over the last year, in fact, I just went to Easter with Catholic. I'm Catholic, so my homies from college call me Tony Catholic. So Easter's it's our biggest holiday. My mom is very important. You know, a lot of family, a lot of church. Isn't that? I wore a suit to church on Easter. It was the first time I wore dress pants in a damn year, over a year. We're right at this point. And it felt it didn't feel, actually, I've lost a little weight at this point. I'm going to try not enough to be noticeable or be worthy of talking about, but I fit my suit just fine. So it wasn't fitting in it. That was a problem. It was just dressing up. That was a problem. But now my job is trying to work their way back into going back to work physically. And I've been very productive at my job over the last year too. I've had a very good year and like getting a lot of great stuff done working remotely. But the stress of not having to jump up and beat the traffic and get ready and take care of this gorgeous mane that I got going on and stuff like that is wonderful. And I get to, like, my morale's up and I'm doing a lot of work. Right now, I feel like a prisoner, man, who has been in jail, has become institutionalized for the last 20 years, and they get used to prison life. And now parole is coming up. And I'm scared, folks. I'm scared of going back to work in that regular world. I've got to wear dress clothes. I've got to rush to be there by this 3-minute deadline. God bless it. God bless America. God bless people fighting COVID. God bless us getting back to normal, but God bless remote work. It's wonderful. My life has been so awesome. J-Dub says, you honestly believe teaching is soaked up as well over Zoom? Honest question. No, actually, I don't. Not at all. The way that my online classes work, they're asynchronous. So it is not like us get together and listen to me. It's not the sage on the stage. It's a different type of learning than I do in the classroom. But you're absolutely right. The thing to online learning, J-Dub, is that you can't just think of it. You do the same thing. It's just in a virtual space, right? You can't think of it like that. It has to be a different, complete dynamic, you know what I'm saying? And so the strategies that I use to guide people through working with historical material and thinking about the past, those strategies are different when we're all together in a 30-person group, and then they are from like, hey, here's me working with you kind of independently on your own time. So that's a very fair question about the quality. But I think I wonder if the world wants to go back to being on time and being present. Like, I know, and for people who have worked through this whole hardship in their regular job and had to wear those stupid effing masks, and not, you know what, do your part. I'm not trying to say don't do your part or whatever. I'm a team player and this and that. But man, like, I'm just tired of it. I'm tired of it. So God bless y'all. I was thinking this is what you want me to teach this whole class wearing a mask. Like I gotta be being an actor and entertainer and keeping people up. Shoot. So here's to pajama pants, not brushing your teeth till noon, and drinking coffee all damn day and taking a poop whenever you want to, and all of that mess. Institutionalized. Don't let me out. Don't let me out. I want to stay in. I'm going to stab Carl Van. I'm going to shank him to stay in this world. No. Happy to be employed. Happy to be healthy. Thank you guys for your support. My name's Tony Dunn. It's the C3 Panthers podcast, brought to you by CarolinaCatChronicles.com. Look, you can find me on Twitter at @cat_chronicles. You can email me at CarolinaCatChronicles@gmail.com. Message me in the Discord, wherever you want. Come and talk to me. What I actually want to know from you guys is, what do you want to talk about? Ideas, people, what do you want us to do? And you tell it, I'll make it happen. You tell me, we'll make it happen. Don't forget the contest, all of that. Ice up to all the people who didn't like the video but love the content. Love you guys no matter what. And J-Dub's going to be co-host of me in this upcoming future. I can feel it in my blood. Blake Bettis, I got your calls in. And you jerks in the phone lines, 252-228-5098, have fooled me again. Let's hope that Sam Darnold didn't fool us. Let's hope that the Carolina Panthers are trending up. I think they are. I'm excited. Don't forget, draft night party is going to be a blast. Until then, we'll see you on Tuesday. I'm getting more content. It's all good, baby. It's all gravy. We'll see you next week.